You bet $10. Sign up with promo code USL to get started. Must be 21 plus. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Terms and conditions apply. See app for details. Offer not available in New York.
At AT&T, we guarantee our network so you can talk college football with your BFF while taking Buster to the vet.
Hey, yeah, I can't believe he ate the whole thing of chicken wings.
And I can't believe we're staging a comeback. Touchdown! Yes!
Staying connected matters. That's why in the rare event of a network outage, you'll automatically get a bill credit for a full day's service. For wireless downtime lasting 60 minutes or more caused by a single incident impacting 10 or more towers, must be connected to impacted tower at onset of outage. Restrictions and exclusions apply. See att.com/guarantee for full details.
You're in a 4-minute break. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Bye. From the Play Show, yet not overly ostentatious studios of the Infinity Sports Network here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on into a Football Friday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all of our great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 375, the free Odyssey app, the iHeartRadio app, and also streaming live on YouTube. 888-710-4ISN is the number to jump on in. That's 888-710-4476. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter at Zach Gelb, or on TikTok at The Zach Gelb Show. Whole lot to do today. Pete Nakos did his great job covering college football for On3. He's going to stop by at 4 p.m. Eastern time. Bone from the Mac and Bone Show on WFNZ will be our guest picker this week for NFL picks, and we'll take you all the way up until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time. I'm going to be fully transparent with the listening audience. I remember in the third quarter last night of the Raiders and Broncos game, I remember in that putrid, just ugly, terrible, sloppy, boring game, the decision by the Raiders, it was the Broncos, on 3rd and 1, to have a wide receiver try to throw the football. And it looked like maybe they were trying to run at first, and then he was going to throw it, and then the kick was missed, and that was sitting there late in the third quarter. I think there was like 5 or 6 minutes to go in the third quarter. And during the time of that game, I may have been trying to stir up the pot a little bit. I put Anthony Gallo, who's a huge Broncos fan that does Gridiron Game Day, in a group chat with our guy, Stuart Kovacs, who is a huge Las Vegas Raiders fan. And I'm just kind of throwing zingers back and forth to try to make the game entertaining. Now, I'll give credit to Amazon Prime. I don't love Al Michaels anymore in the booth. I think the game has passed him by, and he's a legend. Herb Street, I love him from college. In the NFL, he's not just really my thing. But with Carissa Thompson and Tony Gonzalez and Richard Sherman and Andrew Whitworth, I'm not the biggest fan of Fitzpatrick, but people love him. I think they do a good job pregame, halftime, postgame. But the actual game was absolutely rubbish. So I needed to make it entertaining for myself. And Stu and Gallo could only be entertaining for that long. So I was texting them, stirring the pot up, got some zingers back and forth, had the two of them basically fight one another via text. And then I wake up and it's the fourth quarter with 2 minutes to go, and the Broncos are running out the clock in a 10-7 game. And when I woke up, I said, what the heck did I miss? And I went to my Twitter. This is so on brand for our show, which I absolutely love. That's how boring the game was. I fell asleep. And it wasn't like I was exhausted. It wasn't as if I was tired. But that game, I didn't even make it to my bed. I'm on the couch. It wasn't like I turned it off, said, gonna call it a night early. No. I fell asleep on my couch because that's how bored I was with that game. And I go to my Twitter afterwards, and when I was on my Twitter, I get all these mentions. Oh, Chris in California is probably thrilled. Chris in California is probably thrilled. And I go, uh-oh, what did I miss? And then I saw that Geno Smith got hurt. He's hobbling around on basically one leg. They put Kenny Pickett in for a drive? And then they go back to Geno Smith. Ay. That was that game last night. What a disaster. Like, Stu, even when your Raiders keep it close, even when they're respectable, it's still embarrassing. And I'm not going to slam the Raiders that much today. Like, the game has passed Pete Carroll by. He hitched his wagon to Geno Smith on a 2-year contract. Geno Smith is just not a great quarterback. It's amazing how he salvaged his career, right? He was basically irrelevant for 10 years. Then he had a nice run in Seattle. That's when you should have ended that story, right? When Pete Carroll leaves Seattle, he should have said, if I'm getting back into coaching, I'm detaching myself from Geno Smith and I should go elsewhere. But instead, these older, stubborn coaches, they go back to what they're familiar with. And Pete Carroll's a heck of a guy, right? Pete Carroll seems like a joy to be around. But all these older coaches, they're stuck in their ways. And they're sometimes afraid to try new things. And the next thing you know, you have Geno Smith with the Raiders. And I'm sitting there, and Stu, like, I'm trying to get the plan of the Raiders, right? You bring in Pete Carroll. You tried to get Ben Johnson. You tried to get some other names in there as well. It didn't work. They went elsewhere. So you go with the guy who is going to be a Hall of Fame coach, right? Legendary coach in college. In the NFL, got the Seahawks to 2 Super Bowls, right? They won the 1 Super Bowl. They lost the last one. We all know that's because they decided to throw the ball on the 1 yard line when you have beast mode in your backfield. But Pete Carroll is well respected. He's viewed as a great coach, and he's going to be in Canton, Ohio one day. And that coach, right, last night when he's there with the Raiders and they're now 2-7 on the season, even in a game where many are expecting them to get annihilated and they didn't get annihilated, I'm sitting there and I'm saying, what's the Pete Carroll experiment with the Raiders? Like, what are they trying to accomplish? And you're trying to accomplish to take a franchise that's in the basement and a franchise that is in NFL purgatory and just make them respectable. Like, just make them decent. And you're bringing in Pete Carroll. You're trying to build up this house. And by the end of the Pete Carroll tenure, you're hoping that like 65% of the house is built. And then to finish maybe the 3rd floor and the roof and do the paint job is the next coach that's coming on in. But right now, they have imploded the house. They brought in Pete to fix it. And after 1 year, are you really going to fix much? Like, just look at the coaching staff at the Raiders. You got Chip Kelly. If it was Chip Kelly 15 years ago, 10 years ago, great. Chip Kelly now, no bueno. Now, Brock Bowers is a beast. We know that. Ashton Genty, I think, is going to be really good. Max Crosby, for some reason, this guy just wants to keep on staying with the silver and black. But outside of that, Stu, what do you got? Your line's banged up. Your line stinks anyway. You don't have a quarterback. Even at the end of the game, there was I think I may have saw this part, or maybe I saw it on replay. There's a guy that's open down the right sideline. It was actually a good ball, and it was incomplete. So, like, outside of those pieces, Stu, you're a Raiders fan. Just players on the field. Bowers, Genty, and Crosby. What else do you have that could build this team for the future?
I mean, Colton Miller's a good offensive lineman, but he's hurt right now. He's also getting a little older. Aside from that, though, there really isn't much. To your point, there isn't really anything they can build off of with, having really good players. A lot of average players, some older players, not a lot of good players.
And this is a 3-year plan for Pete Carroll. Is it going to be that much different from year 1 to year 2? I just asked that question. Like, this Pete Carroll experiment, even though the standards wasn't that high to begin with, it's going to be a failure. They're not going to get this thing right. They got to just make them respectable, right? Like, all right, this year, what, they're going to win 4 or 5 games max? Next year, can you get to 7 or 8 wins? But at the absolute apex, what is year 3 going to look like? 9 and 8? And maybe this year they draft a quarterback. Maybe they get a long-term option at the quarterback position. But it's a roll of the dice. Can I sit here and tell you Ty Simpson's going to be great in the NFL, or Fernando Mendoza is going to be great in the NFL, or Dante Moore is going to be great in the NFL? No, I can't sit here and tell you that. I like what the 3 of them are doing in college, but who would have thought those would be the 3 quarterbacks who are sitting there talking about being the first quarterback off the board? And who knows if Cleveland's going to make a decision on a quarterback this year? Who knows if the Jets are going to make a quarterback decision this year in the draft? Like, you don't know that. So unless if you just hit the lottery, right, Stu? Where this organization just drafts a quarterback and they end up being a rock star, and they drag, like how C.J. Stroud in the first 2 years dragged the Texans out of purgatory, and how Jaden Daniels last year dragged the Commanders out of the, the pit of misery. Unless if that happens, I don't think just because Pete Carroll was this great coach means that they're going to get this thing moving in the right direction. And that's where the Raiders are at. But on the flip side, you have the Denver Broncos. And, I always think Anthony Gallo's crazy with how negative he is. But I'm watching them. They're 8-2 right now. If I see the Broncos in the playoff, I'm only afraid of one thing. It's not Sean Payton. It's not Bo Nix. It's that defense. Like, that defense is damn good. But I look at the offense for the Broncos. It's nothing special. And the crazy part is, They're on a 7-game win streak. All right, so they beat the Bengals 28-3. They came back against Philadelphia. They barely beat the Jets. They beat the Jets by 2. They had to come on back against the Giants. They beat the Cowboys, who can't stop a nosebleed. At least your offense looked good against them with 44 points. Then you barely beat the Texans by 3, and then you beat the Raiders by 3. Like, the Chiefs next week should annihilate the Denver Broncos. Annihilate them. If Patrick Mahomes and Rashee Rice and company just have a pulse. So I look at this Broncos team. Yeah, you're 8-2. You may win the AFC West this year because you're sitting there right now at 8-2. The Chargers are 6-3, and the Chiefs are 5-4. Like, you are running in front. You have a big lead, right, with that baton. And could the Chargers or could the Chiefs catch you? Yeah, sure, you could get caught. But you're not that far away from the finish line in terms of winning the AFC West. And Stu, if I would have told you before the year that the Broncos would win the AFC West, that would give you the feeling that, oh, the Broncos had this incredible season, correct?
Yeah, like 13 wins, and maybe the Chiefs had 12 and the Chargers had 10, but they had like 13 wins. Just an amazing year. Bo Nix took that next step into becoming like a top, 7-5 quarterback in the league.
And it shows you how great their defense is, because is anyone afraid of Bo Nix right now? I'm not. And even though Sean Payton did a heck of a job last year, right? That team we thought was a bottom 5 roster last year, he got him into the postseason. The offensive roster is not that great. The defensive roster is loaded. But with what we've seen recently from Bo Nix, is the last 2 games, is anyone that into? And I know the stats will dress up nicely, right? He's had 18 passing touchdowns. He's had 2,126 yards passing, right? The numbers will say, oh, Zach, you're being too critical. Like, Zach, settle down a little bit. But I'm watching that game last night. It literally put me to sleep. Stu texted me this morning. He goes, hey, just out of curiosity, you were texting us a lot last night, and then you just stopped. Were you even up in the fourth quarter? And I said, no, I fell asleep. And I don't usually go to bed till like 1 or 2 a.m. anyway. And that's how bad that game was last night. And I understand the NFL, they're always going to capitalize off an individual night of the week. And I'm not sitting here saying that they shouldn't do Thursday night football games. But the Thursday night football games this year have been brutal. Even when they're good games, they're bad games. I put up the tweet last night. I wish this game was on, I had YouTube TV and this game was on ESPN. That's how, I didn't want to watch this last night. That's how dreadful it was. And take out the first game of the season because it's on NBC. But for the Amazon Prime games this year, you had the Packers beat the Commanders 27-18. That game didn't live up to the hype. You had the Bills and the Dolphins. The Bills beat the Dolphins by 10 points. It was closer than what you thought, but you knew that the Bills were going to win. Seattle, Arizona was a good game. Seattle was blowing them out. Arizona then came back. Then Seattle won it at the end, 23-20. 49ers, Rams, 26-23. Good game, right? The Niners are the walking wounded. The Rams didn't play well. They were sloppy, and the 49ers beat the Rams. Giants, Eagles, surprising I was there, but a terrible game. It was a blowout, 34-17 in favor of the Giants. Bengals and Steelers, 33-31. Okay, fine. Then after that recently, Chargers 37-10 against the Vikings. Terrible. Ravens 28-6 up against the Dolphins. Terrible. And last night, a close game, but maybe one of the worst football games I've ever seen. And I don't think that's hyperbole. Between the Broncos and the Raiders, with it being 10-7. So last night, you have 2 older coaches, right? One in Sean Payton, who's winning games. But I don't think people fear Sean Payton as they once did. And then you got Pete Carroll, who's there, right? He's a good coach, but he's going nowhere with the silver and black. So let's take those 2 coaches, and let's have a conversation about 2 other coaches, right, that are perceived to be good coaches in the NFL. If they were fired today, they'd be hired tomorrow. But look at a Mike Tomlin and a John Harbaugh. John Harbaugh has had arguably one of the best quarterbacks in the league for the last half decade. The farthest he's gone is to an AFC championship game. And when he got to an AFC championship game, as the Chiefs basically did not, I was at the game, they did nothing on offense. Nothing. His offense couldn't find a way to get the job done. Right? Harbaugh has a Super Bowl, But with Lamar Jackson, the farthest they've ever gone is to an AFC championship game. Then you have Mike Tomlin, right, who gets the most out of his roster, but he has not been able to find a franchise quarterback post-Big Ben. And I know it's probably not the best day to bring up Antonio Brown, but it's part of the conversation on the football. With Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, and Big Ben, even when he had a humming offense, the defense did nothing. And the Pittsburgh Steelers now, yeah, they could win the division this year. They could go to the playoffs, but this team hasn't won a playoff game since 2016. So if I just said, hey, is Sean Payton a good coach, people would say yeah. If I said, is Mike Tomlin a good coach, people say yeah. If I said, is Pete Carroll a good coach, people say yeah. If I said John Harbaugh is a good coach, people would say yeah. But if the NFL game got to a point where even Bill Belichick got fired from it, and people even said the game passed Bill Belichick by, why can't we say that about Sean Payton, Mike Tomlin, John Harbaugh, or Pete Carroll? Like, I'm just asking the question. And I know what people will say to me, well, Zach, look at the job Sean did last year. Look at the record of the Broncos this year. But that's a coach that won a Super Bowl in New Orleans. Is he going to be a guy that wins a Super Bowl in Denver? I don't think so. Mike Tomlin is always in the playoffs, hasn't won a playoff game since 2016. John Harbaugh hasn't been able to find a way to beat either the Bills or the Chiefs in the postseason to get to the Super Bowl. And at number one seed was home field advantage and couldn't beat the Chiefs when the Chiefs gave you a bad effort in the game. And Pete Carroll, right, he should have just stayed retired. So here's my question today. Between these four coaches, and if your team was hiring a coach tomorrow, who would you want to hire? Sean Payton, Mike Tomlin, John Harbaugh, or Pete Carroll? Stu, what's your answer on that? Just wondering. If the Raiders, well, maybe not the Raiders we shouldn't use. Let's say Stu didn't have a football team and Stu was starting a football team. And I said you could start your team tomorrow with either Pete Carroll, John Harbaugh, Mike Tomlin, or Sean Payton. Who would you hire?
I think I would go with Harbaugh. And maybe part of that is the fact he's had a quarterback that, you know, is an elite quarterback. So that helps. And maybe it's hard to separate that from the other guys. But I don't know. I look at Pete Carroll. Like you said, I think the game's passed him by. Sean Payton, less so, but I don't know. He just doesn't give me in 2025 like the confidence that he's going to coach a team to a Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl. And then Tomlin, like you said, Tomlin hasn't won a playoff game in like a decade, so that kind of takes him out of the running. So that's why I think I would go Harbaugh in this case.
I would go Carroll 4.
Me too.
I would, I think I would go John Harbaugh 3, which I'm stunned by saying that because he's had the best of the quarterback and he still hasn't. It's one thing to just lose to the Chiefs. He's also lost to the Bills, right? So I don't think he's getting the most out of that team. Tomlin would be 2, and I'd be curious if Tomlin ever got his long-term quarterback again, what it would look like. But you're right, Stu. He hasn't won a playoff game. And then I guess I'd put Sean Payton 1. And I wouldn't feel great about it, but you know I'd put him 1? Like, the Broncos roster last year stunk. It's not like, I know the defense is solid, but we looked at that team as a bottom 5 roster to have in the playoffs. Bo Nix, I know he went 12th overall. I didn't think he was going to be a good quarterback in this league. And I know he hasn't been great the last 2 games. But his first 2 years, I think, is with how they're able to win this many games is a reflection on Sean Payton. And I get it. Sean did not do a good job last night. That was not a pretty performance. But I guess he would still be 1. You know what? I can't believe I'm saying this. Between the 4 of them, I don't feel good about any of them if I was hiring a coach tomorrow. And that doesn't take away from the legacies of all 4 of them. It doesn't. Pete Carroll's going to the Hall of Fame. John Harbaugh won a Super Bowl. It's been good for a long time with the Ravens. Mike Tomlin has won a Super Bowl. Has got the most out of his roster for a long time with the Steelers. And then Sean Payton, we remember what he did with the Saints. And they're probably going to the playoffs his first 2 years. Or it's year number 3 for him. But the last 2 years with the Denver Broncos, he did have that 1 year of Russell Wilson. 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. It is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Between these 4 coaches, and if your team is hiring a coach tomorrow, who would you hire? Sean Payton, Mike Tomlin, John Harbaugh, Pete Carroll. The only returns, 4.7% go with Pete Carroll. Maybe I should have just left Pete off the list. You know, his age is probably the biggest reason there. 20.9% say Mike Tomlin, 33.7% say Sean Payton, and then 40.7% say John Harbaugh. Back with more after these short messages.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
This is the Zach Gelb Show.
888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. It is the Zach Gelb Show. We'll talk a little college football, what to look forward to this weekend as it pertains to the college football playoff. But first, let me get to our guy, Delta 9 Brian, who's on the line. Brian, what's going on?
Hey, Zach. First of all, I want to thank you for not shredding my Panthers yesterday. I think we might have a shot, maybe. As I'm driving to the greater Charlotte area, I was watching the game last night and I only saw one drive because I had to go to bed early. And did you see when Ashton Genty scored the touchdown, his celebration dance his teammates did?
Oh, what? When he, was lying in the end zone and then someone came over and, kind of shocked his heart to revive him?
Yeah, so I'm just curious. They did two pumps. How come Rico Dowdle got a flag when he did two pumps, but Ashton Genty get the two pumps and he doesn't get a flag?
You know what? It's a great question. I would have never thought about it. I think you know the answer to that, Delta 9, Brian. It's because Rico Dowdle, and I didn't have a problem with it. I'm not against having fun in the NFL, but he did two pumps in an area where you're not allowed to do two pumps, if you know what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, it wasn't derogatory. It wasn't using the ball. It wasn't promoting violence or anything. It's just
fun.
It wasn't.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you and appreciate the phone call. Great phone call and a great point. And I grew up in an era where, you would have Chad Ochocinco, remember the Hall of Fame jacket. You would have Joe Horn, remember doing the phone call. T.O. with the pom-poms. Who was the one that did the Sharpie? Who signed them? Was that T.O. too?
That was T.O., yeah.
Yeah. I always loved that stuff. So I had no problem Rico Dowdle doing the two pumps. But, Stu, he did two pumps with the junk, right? For Ashton Genty.
But it's 3. The 3's the penalty.
Oh, is 3 the penalty?
Yeah.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but you could only do 2, right?
2's fine.
Who the F knows? He did two pumps, though.
With Key and Peele.
Yeah, I'm well aware. I saw the whole thing this week. But Dowd only did two pumps, right? Yeah. So who knows what the NFL officiates this and all that stuff. Either way, they officiate it the way that they do, and it is a funny point by Delta 9 Brian how you can make a case there are a few pumps there. So maybe Rico Dowdle should find a way to complain to the league over that one. But Delta 9 Brian's Carolina Panthers, give them credit. Give them credit. They're 5-4. Now, their next two games are the Saints and the Falcons. They got to split those two. They win both. The Falcons would be sitting there at 7-4. But if you just win one, you're 6-5, which is great. But then their schedule picks up in intensity. San Francisco, the Rams, the Saints, Buccaneers, Seattle, Buccaneers down the stretch. But Carolina Panthers fans finally have something to look forward to, and what a win that was last week up against the Green Bay Packers. All righty. College football playoff. Because how I look at college football right now is we have the first bracket. So we know Ohio State would be in if it started today. Indiana would be in. A&M would be in. Alabama would be in. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 seeded respectively. Then you would have in the 5-12 matchup, Georgia against Memphis. Then the 6-11 matchup, you'd have Ole Miss up against Virginia. In the 7-10 matchup, you'd have BYU up against Notre Dame. And in the 8-9 matchup, you would have Texas Tech up against Oregon. So just looking at this weekend in college football, Ohio State plays Purdue. There's going to be no movement with Ohio State. Ohio State will annihilate Purdue. Indiana is at Penn State. Indiana, even if it's a tough road environment, Penn State's on their backup quarterback, right? They don't even have James Franklin there anymore. Indiana is probably going to put up a number on Penn State. You look at Indiana's last 4 games, 30-20 on the road up against Oregon. Then they beat Michigan State 38-13. That wasn't even the cleanest of products. Then 56-6 up against UCLA, 55-10 up against Maryland. You know, bare minimum, that's a 34-14 kind of showing, 17 showing, I would imagine, bare minimum up against Penn State. So there'll be no movement with Indiana this week in terms of teams that could fall. Here's one that's interesting. A&M against Missouri. Missouri's hanging on by a thread. You know, I know that you could potentially get a 3-loss SEC team in. Missouri 6-2 on the season. This is a must-win, or you got to have it for Missouri, however you want to classify it. If Missouri wins this one, then after that, they have Mississippi State, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. You would think in theory they would beat Mississippi State and Arkansas, and then Oklahoma is the tough game. But if they want to make the college football playoff and not have to sweat it out and rely on a 3-loss SEC team getting on in, then they got to win this week. I'll be curious if Missouri could pull off the upset against A&M, but I am leaning that A&M is going to win. But even if A&M does lose, it's not as if they're going to get knocked out of the college football playoff with 12 seeds, because that would be their first loss of the season, but they would fall. So could A&M, even if they lose, fall? Yes. Are they going to fall out of the top 12? No, they will not. Alabama, they play LSU. Maybe you get a little boost, obviously, with the coach stepping in for Brian Kelly. Maybe you get the interim boost. But still, I love the way that Alabama's playing right now. With that defense, DeBoer's a heck of a coach. Ty Simpson's a heck of a story. They have so many good wide receivers. I don't think you're seeing an upset this week where LSU pulls it off against Bama. Could they do a little bit of a Florida fight up against Georgia, what we saw last week? It's possible. But ultimately, even though LSU's defense is good, their offense is too much of a problem, and I expect some turnovers by the Crimson Tide defense. Georgia, who's been playing with their food lately, but they keep on surviving. They're 7-1. They go up against Mississippi State. Mississippi State's been a good story this year at 5-4. I know they gagged away the game the other week up against Texas, which was just crazy how they ended up losing that 2 weeks ago. But Mississippi State, they've been solid. They got off to that good start. They went on that 4-game losing streak. They did bounce back up against Arkansas. I would like to see Georgia finally go down just because it feels like they should have another loss on their resume. I don't think Georgia is losing to Mississippi State. Ole Miss, they go up against the Citadel. We could end the conversation right there. Ole Miss is not losing to the Citadel. It'd be the worst loss maybe in the history of college football if they did so. Now, here's the big one this weekend. You have 7-8. BYU going to Lubbock to play Texas Tech. The spread in this one, Ak. Do you know the spread between BYU and Texas Tech?
I'm going to say 16.
6? Why do you guys think it's so crazy?
Because you brought it up that way.
Okay. So BYU is undefeated. They're going to Texas Tech, who only has 1 loss on the season. Texas Tech is a 10.5-point favorite.
I figured it was double figures, so I went on the higher side.
But still,
yes,
that's crazy.
I hear you.
Now, maybe Vegas knows something we don't know. And Kalani Sitake is a heck of a coach. I love Joey McGuire. But an undefeated team against a team that's an in-conference rival, you're telling me that Texas Tech, even with the loaded rosters, a 10.5-point favorite, hey, maybe that's a sucker bet? Because I think a lot of people like me are going to look at that and say, hey, I'm getting 10.5 points of BYU. Even if they don't win the game, how do I not plus it? But that's where we're at right now. So this is Vegas telling you they expect the Texas Tech rout of BYU. So there will be movement there. I'll be curious whoever loses this BYU-Texas Tech game. If it's Texas Tech, because that would be their second loss of the season, they would fall out of the college football playoff. But if it's BYU, clearly Texas Tech will stay. Then my question becomes, will BYU fall out of the college football playoff picture? Because they would be 8-1. And even though the Big 12 got some respect, I'd be curious to see what the rankings then would be the next time they do come on out. Oregon, they're going up against Iowa. I know a lot of people are saying at Iowa, Iowa's going to win the game. I don't see that. I'm going to trust Dan Lanning in this one, as Oregon is going to get the victory, and they'll move to 8-1. Notre Dame, they got to win out. I'm curious what it looks like the next 2 weeks for Notre Dame. They play Navy and Pittsburgh. Then after that, it's Syracuse and Stanford. I got to think that Notre Dame is going to beat Navy. I know Navy was a team last year that people looked at and they said, okay, maybe they could pull off the upset up against Notre Dame. Was that game at Yankee Stadium or MetLife Stadium?
That was MetLife.
You were there, right?
I was there, yes.
Yeah, it was 51-14 in favor of Notre Dame. So I think Notre Dame's going to beat Navy. If that game was early in the season, maybe a different story. But Notre Dame's got things moving in the right direction this past week. Virginia, which has been one of the best stories in college football. I know Wake Forest, a few weeks ago, they pulled off the upset against SMU, then got annihilated by Florida State. I'm going to trust Tony Elliott in this one, and I think it factors in that Wake Forest just got a nice upset victory a few weeks ago, so I don't think Virginia's going to go down this week. And then Memphis could go down because they're playing Tulane tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern time. We'll see if Brendan Lewis, the quarterback of Memphis, Ryan Silverfield joined us earlier in the week, the head football coach of Memphis. He said we'll see if Lewis is going to play. I do lean Memphis in this one, but it would be so American Athletic Conference with Tulane getting crushed by UTSA the other week. Then they come on back and they beat Memphis. It would be very fitting for this Tulane story this year, as Tulane's only lost so far Ole Miss and UTSA. They did beat Duke earlier in that season, and they also beat Army. But that would be very fitting. And then I saw that UTSA, they played last night up against South Florida. And UTSA, I know that they were right at 500 going into this one, but South Florida just annihilated them last night. And Coach Alex Golish, as they're trying to go win the American this year, and we'll see if they get in the conference championship game. They just lost to Memphis, and they lost to Miami. Those are only 2 losses of the season. Remember, they beat Boise State when they were in the top 25, Florida when they were in the top 15. Those were their 2 huge victories this year. They also beat North Texas, having a very good year, and I love that coach, and Coach Morris. He's done a really good job. But the rest of the road now for USF is Navy, UAB, and Rice. But we'll see with this game coming up tonight who's going to win between Memphis and Tulane, and that could shake up some things because Memphis, even though they're the 12th seed right now, they are not in the top 25. So we'll see how the cookie does crumble there. All right, we'll come on back. We'll update you some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio. We'll do a news brief on the other side. Pete Nakos from On3 will join us at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Bone from the Mac and Bone Show on WFNZ will be our guest picker today for NFL picks. But first, we get the latest sports flash in with the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
And it's brought to you by Old Trapper. Listen up, not all beef jerky is the same. Old Trapper is better for you and higher in essential protein than chips, sugar-filled energy bars, or candy. So ask for Old Trapper by name because no other jerky compares. Old Trapper, what's your beef? Jaden Daniels is recovering from a gruesome-looking injury, but it wasn't as bad as first thought. There is no ligament damage in his dislocated left elbow. He'll be reevaluated during the team's bye week, and then a timeline for his return will become more clear. Chris Godwin and Bucky Irving remain out for the Buccaneers, while the Patriots once again will be without Ramondre Stevenson for that game, and Brian Thomas Jr. out for the Jaguars due to a foot injury. The Thunder are coming off their first loss this season. They'll look right to get right back on the beam tonight when they meet the Kings in Sacramento, while the Rockets and Spurs, both 5-2, 2 games behind them, will meet in San Antonio. Houston's physical front line could pose a problem for Victor Wembanyama. We said it's tough to prepare for that. The Pistons have won 6 of their first 8, off to a good start after last year's impressive showing in the playoffs despite a first-round exit. They're in Brooklyn tonight to face the Nets, who are coming off their first win. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Hey-o, this is Pat Boyle. Get all your sports talk here on the Infinity Sports Network. Always available on the free Odyssey app.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining.
3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
All right, it's time to ask the pros. You, the listener, gets asked us a question brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply tweet your question at INF Sports Center at Zach Gelb using the hashtag #AskThePros. Be listening later in the show when we might answer your question. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Here is Broncos coach Sean Payton. He says he knows the team has a lot of work to do despite their 8-2 record.
We're never satisfied. If my answer were to you, I'm comfortable. That'd be silly, right? So obviously we gotta clean up the penalties. We gotta clean up some of the execution, and that is an ongoing thing that probably never ends. There's, you search for that Shangri-La. Right now, we're a team sitting at 8 wins. I think we're the only team sitting there.
So he's not wrong, right? They're the only team sitting there at 8 wins. But when you take a look at it, do you think that that's a team that's going to be able to win 3 games in the postseason if they're not the number 1 seed? Or even if they are the number 1 seed, can they win 2 games in the postseason to get to the Super Bowl? I would probably say no, right? That defense looks unbelievable. I still have some trust issues with Bo Nix. The offense isn't really all that special. I thought they got cute too many times, like run the ball more with J.K. Dobbins instead of running that trick play. But I look at that team. The defense looks championship quality. The offense doesn't. I could see them winning a playoff game this year. That would be an accomplishment. But do I think they're going to win multiple playoff games? Right now, I would say no on that. Bo Nick says the offense needs to be a lot better.
Got to do better. At some point, 10 points ain't going to be enough. We got to score more. Between penalties and just some sluggish football, we're just not playing very good. And it starts with me. I got to be better, and then the rest of the guys will follow along. But we got to find some juice somewhere. We got to find something.
And then let's get to Pete Carroll. I'm sure Stu's going to love this one. He's just glad that the Raiders competed in the contest.
There's so many things we can get better at, but the fight is in this dark now. There ain't no doubt about it. And I couldn't wait to tell them how proud I was of the way they competed. And so we all know in this room we're gonna do something, and so it's just a matter of time.
Hey Stu, what do you know? I know you're not in the room, but what do you know that the Raiders are going to do?
I know they're going to have double-digit losses this year, so they're probably going to lose 12, 13 games, something like that.
I think it's fair. I was expecting you to just say lose.
They're going to lose, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go to Geno Smith on how much pain he was in when he was basically hobbling around on one leg.
Mentally, I just try to block out the pain and just focus on executing the plays. It's obviously in a lot of pain, but I think just with the guys out there and just being out there, having the adrenaline going, and obviously just wanting to win more than anything. The pain is the pain. It's going to be there regardless, but I want to win this game.
That seems like that's a guy that knows if he left the game for an extended period of time, even though Kenny Pickett is not a good quarterback, he could be giving up his job. That would be the only reason, right, Stu, I would think, why Geno Smith hobbled his way back into the game last night. Because it was, even though I didn't see it live because I fell asleep, but when I saw the highlights afterwards, it looked painful for even Geno Smith to be in that game.
Yeah, it did. Even he was warming up and he was limping. I was like, this isn't going to, there's no way he comes back. Then he actually comes back and he's basically, after every play, just kind of hopping and limping and just on one leg. And it was not pretty. And he got sacked. He got hit pretty good again. It wasn't a sack, but he got hit. And I was like, oh boy, is he going to get up from this? And he did, but it was ugly.
It's kind of crazy how that works, because you were saying, okay, you thought there was no way he was going back into the game. I was watching Nebraska USC last week, Saturday night. Dylan Raiola, right when he left the game, I thought it's an ankle injury. There's no way he's coming on back. Then he's standing on the sideline with his helmet on, and I'm saying, wow, they dodged a bullet. And he never got back in the game. He was begging Matt Rule to play in the game. And Matt said, I can't put you back in. You're not healthy enough. And then it comes out after the game that he had a broken fibula. So it's just wild when you really don't know what someone's going through by just looking at them on the sidelines. And I even go back to, I remember when Brady tore his ACL, he walked off the field. And then you find out the next day that Tom tore his ACL. Let's go to Jalen Phillips. He got traded from the Dolphins to the Eagles, and he's on cloud 9 right now.
I thought I was excited day one. I mean, talk to me now. Like, this is literally the greatest thing that's happened to me in my whole life, probably. But it's just awesome. I mean, the guys are awesome. Everybody's been super welcoming. I love the environment here. I love the vibe here.
And then, how could you be upset? Now, I understand it's probably great to live in Miami, but now you're going to play for a guy that you used to play for in Vic Fangio as your defensive coordinator. You're on a team that has Super Bowl aspirations this year with the defending champion Philadelphia Eagles. Garrett Wilson, he's probably like Will Smith in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air when he's just standing in the house and nothing's there, and he's just all by himself because now Quinnen Williams is gone, Sauce Gardner is gone. Here is Garrett Wilson on his reaction to all the trades that the Jets did make.
I was shocked, man. I was shocked, and obviously, just kind of a reminder of the business that we're in, and for me, and kind of just I would say that, just a reminder of this game and not taking the times you get to play with your boys for granted.
And let's go to David Njoku on not getting traded.
I ain't leaving. Yeah, get that on camera.
So it's still last year open.
I'm not leaving. Ever. You don't want to. No.
Do you think you could work something out?
I hope so, yeah.
Do you know if extension talks have started at all or not?
I can't say.
That's funny. Going to the Wolf of Wall Street right there. I'm not effing leaving. Except, David, come on. You really don't want to leave Cleveland? Mike Vrabel, were the Patriots close to making a trade?
Deals are like being pregnant. You either are or you aren't. There's no it's either a deal or it's not. So I don't know how close you can be. I know that everyone worked hard, and that we investigated and looked in and made phone calls and what personnel departments do. And in the end, we decided that this was what we were going to do.
I could just hear a sports minute happening. I could hear Maggie Gray just doing a sports minute. What does Mike Vrabel know about being pregnant? Because Maggie hates the Patriots. Hates the Patriots and Mike Vrabel. Let's go to Kenny Dillingham. This on Arizona Sports, right? Kenny Dillingham with his report yesterday that he was telling players that he's not leaving. This is Kenny Dillingham on prioritizing his family and players in the area.
I have said this from the beginning. My next door neighbor is my sister. My parents live 3 doors down. My wife's parents live 5 doors down. My wife's as competitive of a person as you'll ever see. She's a person who wants to, win national championships. She's a person who wants to be, win. Like, she's competitive and she loves ball. I mean, we flew and just watched late last night and just watched, Bo Nix play in Denver, and then flew back so I could get back on the road recruiting. And so she's a person she's super competitive, and she wants to be able to compete and win national championships, win conference championships, just be in a position to win. So, but having the family support here, and it's a really cool thing.
Well, you could win a conference championship at Arizona State. You cannot win a national championship. Let's go more Kenny Dillingham and how he handles all these rumors about his future.
I mean, to be honest, I don't worry about it at all. I know the things that I want. I know my goals. I know what's needed to achieve those things personally and professionally. So I don't really worry about anything but our players. Like I said, we had a bye week, and, Bo Nix plays on a Thursday night, and I had time, and we flew out there for 4 hours, watch his game, see him after the game, and come back. Like, those are the things that matter to me, are the relationships that you build along the way. And so I think for me, I just kind of keep my head down, try to do the best job I can for our players, because that's what this is all about.
Let's go to Chris McIntosh, the Wisconsin athletic director. He explains why they are not firing Luke Fickell. This was on Badger Connect.
One of the things that this season has shown us is that we can identify the challenges and the challenges that we've faced this season, and that allows us to develop a plan. That's a plan that we've begun to execute on. It's not like that starts today.
The reason why you're keeping him is because of how much money the buyout was. Let's be clear on that. He'll probably be fired at the end of next season. And finally, on base of Mookie Betts, Clayton Kershaw didn't know the Dodgers actually won the World Series when they won the World Series. This is a great story. Listen up.
I didn't know we won the World Series. Did you know that?
What you mean?
I had no idea we won the World Series.
You had next batter.
I was warming up. I saw Vladdy hit the double, so I started getting going faster. I didn't see Kiner fall off. I call him falafel every time. I know. I'm sorry. He punted. I didn't see that. Barger's on first with the walk. So Kirk grounds to the double play, and I'm thinking, okay, 2 outs, run scores, game's tied. We got lefty Varsho up. I'm in the game. And then Bardo's just looking in my face. Why are you throwing? It's over. We won the World Series.
Oh, he's
the one telling me we won the World Series.
Oh, wow.
I was like, okay, that's great.
That's unbelievable. You're warming up, the competitive spirit. You're not really watching the game, and you may be pitching the game, and then someone in the bullpen's like, dude, what are you still doing? We just won. Go run out there, celebrate. This is you're able to now ride off into the sunset with Clayton Kershaw retiring. Oh, that's amazing. Okay, we'll take a break. Pete Nakos from On3, one of the best college football reporters in the business, is going to join us on the other side. Bone from Mac and Bone will join us at 4:40 p.m. Eastern Time to do some NFL picks. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Alrighty, hour number 2 of our radio program. It is the Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on the Infinity Sports Network. We should be joined momentarily by Pete Nakos of On3, one of the best college football reporters in the business, says there's a whole lot out there as the college football search for their next new head coaches are really like a main part of this season. And then, oh yeah, by the way, you do have the regular season and the chase to get into the college football playoff, as you had our first installment coming out on Tuesday. We'll go out to the guest line right now, and we welcome in a great reporter from On3 Sports, obviously covering all things college football, and that is Pete Nakos here on the Zach Gelb Show. Pete, appreciate the time. Thanks so much for doing this. How you been?
Good, man. Thanks so much. Sorry, I was sending off a text.
Yeah, no, all good. Trust me. We would love to probably see inside your phone with all the information that you get out there each and every day. So this week, at least the perception that Kenny Dillingham and Brent Key have given off is that they're not going anywhere. I know we had Matt Rule get a new extension, Kurt Cignetti get a new contract extension, same with Rhett Lashley. Is that the next step to follow here with Georgia Tech and Arizona State, and how likely do you think that's going to be?
Yeah, you look at Kenny Dillingham at Arizona State and everything he's built in a short period of time. He signed a contract extension this past winter after that college football playoff run. I would just, it's interesting. He keeps talking about how close he is to family and things. I don't know. And there's obviously been the reporting that he told some, players and staff members he was staying. I don't know what the next steps are just because they just gave him a huge contract extension. So that's one thing. And then on the other thing, you get Brent Key who's saying slice me open and things like that. He's Georgia Tech to his core. I think there's a contract extension probably in his future at Georgia Tech. We'll see how that takes shape in the weeks to come. But Georgia Tech wants to do everything to keep Brent Key.
Yeah, and I kind of believe that Key's going to be back next year. I think between the two of them, Dillingham is really interesting because Dillingham's personality, like if you threw him at LSU, if you threw him at Penn State, Florida, I think it would work. I know he was on that Auburn staff for a little bit. He seems like that guy could definitely be a coach in the SEC or the Big Ten.
We're talking about Dillingham, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of look at his resume. He had success at Florida State. He had success with Bo Nix at Auburn and then at Oregon. He strikes me as someone who would be successful in the SEC, no doubt. He was on that Auburn staff. I think the next steps for Kenny, if he decides to leave Arizona State, and I'm not saying he would be the SEC. At the same time, though, I talked to him this offseason, and he's very passionate about trying to turn Arizona State into like a Clemson or Oregon-esque kind of blue blood in the sense of a 21st century dynasty. At the same time, though, where everything is headed in college football, it's all about trying to get into those Power 2 conferences, if you will. And this coaching carousel could offer the opportunity. So that's just something that, continue to follow. At the same time, though, Kenny has not said anything that makes me think that he's leaving. If anything, he's made it clear that he's going to stay at this point. So it's interesting to watch. I think we'll have really good clarity in the weeks to come.
Pete Nakos here with us. What was the reaction yesterday when it was announced from Wisconsin that Luke Fickell is going to be returning as the head football coach?
Wasn't surprised. We kind of been reporting in recent weeks that they're going to make the investment into the football program. The only thing that makes you wonder, though, now is just how much better can they get in 2026. They start the year at Lambeau Field against Notre Dame, against a Marcus Freeman team that will obviously be really good with C.J. Carback. I think the question that we're asking right now could still be asked right now is if Luke Fickell is really the guy to fix that at Wisconsin. But all that said, we all know how much success he had at Cincinnati. He went to the CFP. He's proven to be a good head coach. Can they give him enough money to really reinvent this team in the transfer portal? I think that's something that we're only going to figure out with time.
Yeah, and I know it's a little bit different, right? Two different schools. But I go back to last year with Billy Napier. Like, he was brought back, and then the AD challenged the boosters to give more to NIL, and then it didn't work. We know what the buyout was for Napier last year. This seems to me that Luke Fickell's remaining the coach because of the buyout. Is that fair to say?
I'd say that's fair, but at the same time, Wisconsin has enough money where if they really wanted to make a move. The reality of this, too, is you have an athletic director here in Chris McIntosh who's very closely tied now to Luke Fickell and Luke Fickell's future. So bringing back Luke Fickell gives Chris McIntosh a chance to get this right as well.
Pete Nakos here with us. All righty, let's get to some of these jobs that are open. Penn State, Right now, if you had to give a few names to really monitor for this job, but what's the latest intel on up there in Happy Valley?
Yeah, you look at a place like Penn State where Matt Rule and Kurt Signetti were really like the two names to know. They've obviously now signed contract extensions, taking them off the board. Among the names, I'd probably say to keep an eye on, you got Clark Lee at Vanderbilt. You got Pat Fitzgerald, the former Northwestern coach, who's available and talking to a lot of schools. You have Eli Drinkwitz, the Missouri head coach. Brian Hartline is becoming a really hot name in that search. Wouldn't say he's the front runner by any means, but someone who's gained a lot of momentum. Oregon offense coordinator Will Stein, who in the world of coordinators right next to Hartline, he might be the most ready to be a Power 4 head coach. Past that group, I'm sure I'm forgetting someone, but Iowa State's Matt Campbell is not having the best season he's ever had with the Cyclones, but someone that a lot of athletic directors are confident in can build out a program at a high level. So the one other one too that people bring up is Duke head coach Manny Diaz, the former Penn State defensive coordinator. If he wins down the stretch here, I think he's going to get a look for a couple of these jobs. And going back to Happy Valley could make sense.
When we get to LSU, I think it's the biggest question when I'm looking at this hiring cycle. If Lane Kiffin's going to leave Ole Miss for one school, I think it's LSU. But what are you hearing? I know Lane's so tough to predict. I know he's happy at Ole Miss, but LSU is LSU. What are you hearing on the chances there of Lane actually saying, okay, goodbye to Oxford, and he'll be going down to Baton Rouge?
Listen, it's November 7th. Lane Kiffin has a legitimate chance to win an SEC title and have a top 4 seed in the college football playoff. The way I view Lane Kiffin right now is it's a love triangle between Florida, LSU, and Ole Miss. You got Ole Miss, who has given Lane everything, given him a great reset to his career, and Keith Carter, the AD, is ready to give him a big extension. And then you kind of have Florida and LSU kind of pulling at both sides, trying to yank him away. I don't know what he's going to do. I think anyone who comes out right now and says that one school is ahead of the other is just flat out wrong, because I don't think Lane Kiffin and Jimmy Sexton have really had those conversations yet. So, yeah, we'll keep following it. But, yeah, I'd be lying to you right now if I told you what I thought Lane was going to do.
If it's not Florida for Lane, where does Florida go from there? I keep on looking at Eli Drinkwitz, and I think that would be a pretty damn good fit for Florida.
Yeah, his name's definitely come up. The name at Florida that it continues to you hear a lot about, that if Lane isn't on the board anymore, Louisville's Jeff Brom, who I think I forgot to mention at Penn State. Those are 2 schools to watch for Brom. And then past those guys, Brent Key could fit in there. There's a lot of options out there.
How about James Franklin? I know we saw James Franklin on College Game Day right after he got fired from Penn State. We haven't really heard much since. I've just thrown out there that, I think he would be a really good coach at Virginia Tech. Maybe he wants to get back in the SEC waters. What are you hearing on the James Franklin front? Because we haven't heard much recently.
Yeah, there's been all the Virginia Tech smoke. I don't want to be breaking hearts out here. At this point, I know Virginia Tech's done everything they can to get James Franklin, but he's also not going to rush to make a decision, because there's a lot of, if Lane Kiffin stays at Ole Miss, think about all those SEC jobs that he would fit in at. Arkansas, Florida, Auburn. I mean, those are all schools to know for James Franklin at this point. I don't see it as much at LSU right now, but I think that, be interested to see how some things shuffle. And then the last thing too with James Franklin is, I'm not in the business of naming schools that haven't opened yet that he'd fit at, but I'd just tell you that to keep an eye on some schools that could open with James Franklin.
Do you see Florida State being one of those schools that do open up with Norvell?
Yeah.
Right? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that's where my brain first went to, Pete.
Yeah, listen, Florida State's at Clemson this weekend. If they win at Clemson, there's a legitimate opportunity to win out. You're looking at a 7-5 team at that point, which is a significant step forward after going 2-10. I think at that point, there's a real shot that Mike Norvell's safe. But you lose this weekend at Clemson, I think everything that we heard after that Stanford loss is going to come back into the spotlight.
Get into the G5. You got Sumrall, you got Golish, you got Silverfield, who I like at Memphis. All 3 of those coaches. Do you think all 3 are probably gone, or do you think maybe 1 or 2 could stay at their current jobs?
It's so tough to tell. Golish, Silverfield, Summerall, they're all very popular names right now. North Texas is Eric Morris as well. I'd clump him in there. The reality of it is there's only one person who can take a job. So it's tough to tell. Like, I think I think all could be back, but that's so unlikely. I put that under like 5% chance of that happening. I think it's not going to predict where anyone is at this time next year.
Gotcha. Wrap it up with Pete Nakos. Just get into the games this weekend. Makes sense to me on this. In Vegas, right? BYU's undefeated. They're going to Lubbock to play Texas Tech. Texas Tech's a 10.5-point favorite. Like, hey, maybe Texas Tech blows them out. And that seems a little disrespectful to BYU if you're asking me, right?
Yeah, I was really high on Texas Tech coming into the year, just knowing what they did in the portal. And then they looked so good against Utah. That Arizona State loss could come back to bite them. I don't know. I think that spread is definitely a little too big. I'd probably put it more at like 3.5, but that's me. I don't know which way this one goes. BYU's going to get back to running back LJ Martin. That's going to be big for them coming off the bye week. Will be interested. I don't root for injuries at all, but the Texas Tech quarterback, Barrett Morton, he's back. He came back against Kansas State, but Will Hammond's done for the year. So the backup, Texas Tech probably had one of the best quarterback situations with Will Hammond right behind Barrett Morton. And now that Will's done for the year, keeping Barron, healthy and safe in the pocket, that's going to be a huge thing to watch.
You look inside the teams that just got in on the first installment of the college football playoff bracket. You have A&M going up against Missouri this week, Oregon and Iowa. How likely would you pull it that Missouri or Iowa could pull off the upset against A&M and Oregon, respectively?
Listen, Iowa is not an easy place to play. Missouri had the bye week to get Matt Zollers ready for Texas A&M. It's a college football Saturday. I'm not going to rule anything out.
And then the last thing, just getting back to LSU. If it's not Lane Kiffin, where does LSU then go for there? Like, who are some names that you think could be interested in the LSU job after that?
Yeah, it's you're going to keep hearing me say a lot of these same names until these jobs keep filling, just because it's, a lot of names can make a lot of sense at a lot of different places. You got John Summerall at Tulane. Now, do I think that's likely? I'm not sure at this point, just because of Louisiana politics and poaching the Tulane head coach. Past that, the Eli Drinkwitz, Kenny Dillinghams, Brent Keys, Clark Lees, they're all going to get some traction there. I do know, though, that LSU wants they want to bring someone in who's been a head coach before, and someone who is, locked in on making LSU a national title champion, contender, whatever you want to say, 365, 7 days a week. That's going to be a huge thing. Someone who can come in, be committed to building up that culture.
He's Pete Nakos, does a great job covering college football for On3. Pete, appreciate the time.
You bet. Thanks so much.
There you go. Pete Nakos with us on the show. 15 past the hour. Let's get to a break. When we come on back, we got 6 quarterbacks for the first round of the draft class in 2024. You had Caleb Williams going number 1, Jaden Daniels going number 2. Commander's got some good news on that injury front. We'll tell you more about that on the other side. Drake Maye did go 3. Then you had Michael Penix Jr. go 8. Then you had J.J. McCarthy go 10. And then you did have Bo Nix go 12. Who's the best quarterback from that draft class of what we've seen so far through a year and a half? We'll get to that on the other side when the Zach Gelb Show does continue after these short messages.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
This is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
Alrighty, this is Zach Gelb Show right here, coast to coast on the Infinity Sports Network. This NBA preview is brought to you by eBay. eBay is home to millions of finds, and each one becomes part of your story, from your favorite vintage band tee to the dream car you've been searching for. It's all there. eBay, things people love. Tonight, the Spurs host the Rockets in group play of the NBA Cup. We're all excited for the NBA Cup, let me tell you. Both teams are 5-2 on the season. Wemby is averaging 25.6 points, 12.9 rebounds, and 4.1 blocks per game, while Kevin Durant is averaging 24 points and 5.3 rebounds per game. Azaram, can I ask you a question, since you're a soccer guy and this whole NBA Cup is all based off of soccer pretty much? Are you an NBA Cup guy?
I am.
Oh, my God.
I love the NBA Cup.
Why do you love the NBA Cup? I think you may be the only person in America that loves the NBA Cup.
Because, like, right now during the NBA, it's the beginning of the season, and, you know, you need to add more competitiveness to it.
Okay. I don't know. It's just so on brand.
Because I feel
for
like
the
a lot of people that watch the NBA or just casual sports fans, they don't really follow until after the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think that's fair. No, I don't. But also, the players don't really care. That's a problem with the NBA, with all this load management stuff and, we'll pick and choose when we get to play. That's why the NBA product in the regular season has been garbage, and the commissioner in Adam Silver has no backbone, and the players just walk all over him, and it would be nice if we actually had a league that could be fun and competitive in the regular season.
I do think they should get rid of the play-in tournament, though. I think that was
100%.
Like, I think that was a good idea originally, but I think when they first set up, it was in the bubble, and you had to be a certain amount of games behind the 8 seed or the 9 seed. But now it's just you can be whatever as a 9 or 10 seed and try and make the playoffs through that.
Here's the thing. The bubble worked early. The play-in tournament worked early because you had, like, LeBron in it. You had the Warriors in it. The Heat went on that run in it. So it was the perfect storm to say, see, this is why we do it. Did anyone care about the play-in tournament last year in the Eastern Conference?
Nope.
No. Like, no one did. So that's and I'm curious, I'll bring a college football point into this. In college football, the playoff last year, right, everyone stubbed their toe. So you got 12 teams in last year, and it was like down to the wire competitive. This year, I don't know how many great teams there are. So it's playing into, once again, a 12-team format. But do we need to see like a 3-loss SEC team do we need to see? You know, I'm just going to throw some of that stuff out there. I don't know. I wish college football, the committee, when they made the expansion in all college football, they went to 8 if they were going to expand. 12 seemed just too drastic. But it's fallen in line the last, so far, year and a half, where we all love football, and it's not as if, okay, you're sitting there saying, oh, it's an absolute disgrace with what they did. Anyway, just getting back to what Pete Nakos said. I've given my theories and my reasoning why I think James Franklin to Virginia Tech makes a lot of sense. For James, obviously it makes a ton of sense for Virginia Tech. You go to the ACC. It's not the big, bad Big Ten. It's not the big, bad SEC. You're not going to have national championship expectations at Virginia Tech. You go win 8-9 games a year, which you're capable of. You're a good football coach. Boom, you'll be a savior there. But Pete Nakos, who we were trying to get a lot of information out of, Pete Nakos basically kept on throwing at SEC schools. And I'll just ask SEC football fans, if you're Florida, do you want James Franklin? If you're LSU, do you want James Franklin? If you're Auburn, do you want James Franklin? If you're Arkansas, do you want James Franklin? So let me answer that. LSU, I don't think is a match for James Franklin. LSU has had 3 coaches with national championships since 2000. They just had Brian Kelly there, who was a guy, right, did a great job at Notre Dame. Just like how James Franklin did a really good job at Penn State. You could win a national championship at Penn State. Brian Kelly gave off the perception you can't win one at Notre Dame. Brian Kelly goes from Notre Dame to LSU. Did not work out. I think it'd be very similar with James Franklin. So if I was LSU, I would avoid James Franklin. If I'm Florida, though, I think you could do a whole lot worse than James Franklin. Like a whole lot worse. I think James Franklin would actually be good for Florida. I think the Florida fan, though, would not want James Franklin. And that, to me, even as someone that is not the biggest fan of James Franklin, if you're Florida, like, who are you with the way your program is right now to reject a guy that could win 9-10 games a season? You go to an Arkansas. Arkansas, once again, it's the same thing. If you're rejecting James Franklin, let's just say, who are you hiring? Like, would you rather go with the Sumrall, a Golish, a Silverfield? Like, would you rather go there? Because I don't know. I don't think you get a bigger name at Arkansas than James Franklin. Now, with that being said, who would have thought on the basketball front, John Calipari would be the head basketball coach at Arkansas. So maybe that Tyson money could go a long way there. Auburn. I think James Franklin would be a good fit at Auburn. So, like, you look at it in the jobs that are open in the SEC, I think the only person or the only school that could reject James Franklin, and I would say, no, that definitely shouldn't happen, would be LSU. But I look at it, and you see Florida, you see Arkansas, you see Auburn. I think those spots, if James wants to go there, those three schools, who else are you going to, like, if you are Arkansas or Auburn, who else are you hiring? If you want to go with the unknown of a Summerall, right? I know he's been at Tulane, and you rather go with something that is less established, sure, go ahead. You could do that. Like, I won't crush you for that. But in terms of an established Power 4 coach, like if you could get Kenny Dillingham, fine. He, I don't think, is going. So it's like, who are you going to get? That's my question. Like if it's at Florida and Eli Drinkwitz wants to go there, okay, I could live with that. But then if there's some more movement in the SEC, like if Clark Lee leaves, James Franklin go back to Vanderbilt. If Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin leaves, could you maybe see James Franklin at Ole Miss? Like I don't think it's crazy. But I threw out Florida State. Norvell has not been fired yet. I'd be shocked if Norvell is back, though. And James Franklin and Florida State, that could be a match. But once again, if I'm James and in my next hire, I'm not making a hire or I'm not making a move where the fan base is going to expect a national championship. Like, you look at those passionate fan bases, which you want to have, right? But it could blow up in your face like, hey, the reason James Franklin no longer coach at Penn State is not because of the fans. It's because they had a team that they thought could win a championship, and they lost 3 in a row. You lost to Oregon, okay, you can live with that, even though it's another big game that he couldn't win. And then you lost to UCLA and Northwestern. That's what did him in. But with that being said, if you're James, you go to an LSU, you'll be fired within 4 years, if that. I even think at Florida or Florida State, it may be tough to manage some of the fans and their expectation. But if you go to a smaller SEC school, like an Arkansas, even if Lane Kiffin leaves, an Ole Miss, Auburn's a little tricky, but I think they would go back to the Gus Malzahn days right now. And James Franklin could have Gus Malzahn days. Those 3 would make sense. The other 3, I could I could see James Franklin at Florida, but I think it could be a little bit dicey. I do. I could see him at Florida State. I think it'd be a little bit dicey. LSU, I don't think he could go there. So what I'm saying is, you go to a job like Virginia Tech. I think it's more set up for the coach that James Franklin is, which he does feel bigger than Virginia Tech. I will say that. Absolutely. But the fan base is going to appreciate you more if you're just an 8 to 10 win coach a season, which I think you are. I don't think you're a national championship winning coach. You take one of these bigger jobs, I do believe that ultimately that standard is going to do you in. So be curious to see what James Franklin wants. Also, let's get to this question I had about the 2024 draft class. J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix, Michael Penix, Drake Maye, Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams. Who's the best out of that group? Williams still has a lot to prove. I feel like we're really in year 1 of Caleb Williams because now he has Ben Johnson. Jaden Daniels suffered an injury. They were already not playing well before the injury. I thought that was going to be season ending. He's not even going to go on IR now. He does not need surgery for that elbow injury. Daniels had an unbelievable season last year. But year 2 has been disappointing. Hasn't been really able to get on the field as much as we would think. Drake Maye's having a breakout season. He was good last year with nothing around him. They made some changes. Most importantly, they brought Mike Vrabel in, and Drake Maye's balling. Michael Penix Jr., it's too inconsistent for me. And I know he got injured for one of the game, but ever since they beat the Bills, they haven't won a game since. J.J. McCarthy's only been on the field for 3 games. Bo Nix, he could win, but it's not as if you look at him and think he's going to be an elite quarterback. You look back at that draft class, I think the quest for the 1 spot, Daniels gets the edge last year. This year, it's Drake Maye. And I think Maye, as long as he stays healthy, is going to be viewed as the better quarterback after this season. Then they're fighting for who's the best out of that draft class next year. when Daniels gets another go at it, even though he'll play at some point this season, and Drake Maye, it's going to be, okay, can you sustain it with you in the spotlight? I think Caleb's playing for QB spot 3. Maybe he could get up to 2, but he's still got to prove himself. I would then say Bo Nix is 4th, and then Penix and McCarthy are dueling it out for 5 and 6. That's the way that I look at it right now. I would say it's Maye and Daniels fighting for 1 and 2. Right now, Maye would be 1 based off recency, the recent play. Daniels would be 2. Caleb would be 3. I think Bo Nix, because he's winning games, would be 4. And then it's a flip of the coin between Penix and McCarthy for the 5th and 6th spot. That's the way that I would look at that right now. All righty, we'll take a break. When we come on back, we'll do some NFL picks for Week 10. Bone from Mac and Bone's going to join us on WFNZ. They do a great job in Charlotte, North Carolina, as we will go through those picks. We'll also talk a little Carolina Panthers football. They're one of the surprising stories of the NFL. They beat the Packers last week at Lambeau. The Carolina Panthers are now 5-4, so Bone will join us next. Update time first. Here's the Ackman, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network, Sports Flash.
And it's brought to you by Progressive Commercial Insurance, who protects small businesses with affordable coverage options. Quote today at progressivecommercial.com. The Commanders are breathing a sigh of relief. Tests showed there's no ligament damage in Jaden Daniels' left elbow. More will be known about his possible return when he's reevaluated during the team's bye week. The Raiders have fired special teams coordinator Tom McMahon. Chris Godwin and Bucky Irving remain out for the Buccaneers, and the Patriots will once again be without Ramondre Stevenson for that game. Brian Thomas Jr. out for the Jaguars due to a foot injury. The defending champs are coming off a loss for the first time. The Thunder will try to bounce back tonight in Sacramento, while the Cavaliers are 5-3, which isn't bad considering how they opened the season without Darius Garland and Max Strus. The former returned to the lineup this week, and Donovan Mitchell said in many ways it felt like he never left.
Even though he's been hurt, it doesn't feel like he's been away. You know what I'm saying? Him and Max, like, I've done a really good job of, you can be hurt sometimes and kind of be detached from the group. You know, he's been there every day. One of the first ones to show up to the gym, continue to get his work in, and he's only going to get better and better, and it's just great to have him back.
The Cavs go for their 3rd straight win tonight against the 1-7 Wizards in Washington. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Hey, it's Perloff from the Maggie and Perloff Show. Get all your sports talk here on the Infinity Sports Network. Always available on the free Odyssey app.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
This is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
Well, the scapegoat for last night with the Raiders in a game that was close, but it was just absolutely awful to watch. I fell asleep on my couch late in the third quarter, and I woke up in the fourth quarter, and I said, oh, my God, the Broncos are the ball. They ran the game out. Oh, man. So I didn't really miss much last night, but the scapegoat for that loss, according to Ian Rappaport and Tom Pelissero, the Raiders have fired special teams coordinator Tom McMahon. A significant move, Rappaport says, after last night's loss. McMahon and Coach Pete Carroll had words on the sidelines. Oh, jeez. The special teams guy is out. The coordinator's out after that loss last night. How about Chip Kelly? When does Chip Kelly get sent back in? All righty. Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network. We'll do some NFL picks. We'll also talk some Carolina Panthers right now, as we are now joined by Bone from Mac and Bone on WFNZ in Charlotte, North Carolina. Hello for the second time today, my friend.
Hey, it's good to talk to you, man. As far as that game goes last night, I wish that was a YouTube TV game last night so we could all just pretend it never happened.
Do you just steal all my tweets now these days?
No, is that one of your tweets?
Yeah, I had
no idea. I thought I had something good here to open up with. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I didn't know I was stealing from you. I mean, I probably stole it from somebody. I didn't know it was from. Oh, this is not a good look.
Yeah, Raiders and Broncos is so bad that I wish I had YouTube TV, and I wish this game was on ESPN instead, so I couldn't watch it. And then it was retweeted by the legendary Ed Warder. So how about that?
Oh my! I honestly didn't know. Now This is a bad look for me. This is a bad guy move by me.
Hey,
oh, no.
Let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
Because you're usually in the business of, like, every 3 years, a new head football coach getting hired for your football team in the Carolina Panthers.
Yes.
Between these four coaches, this is our poll question today, which you can find at Zach Gelb at INF Sportsnet. So if you want to steal this for Monday, feel free. Between these 4 coaches, if your team was hiring a coach tomorrow, who would you want to hire? Sean Payton, Mike Tomlin, John Harbaugh, Pete Carroll.
Oh, that's a great question. I'm probably going to go no to Pete Carroll, although I respect him. It's probably I don't want to be an ageist towards Pete, but I would probably go him last of that group. I'm really surprised that Sean Payton is having as much trouble as he is with Bo Nix. That's certainly interesting there. I would go Mike Tomlin because at least, and Harbaugh's fine, but Harbaugh's also with a great organization where they draft well for the most part. Tomlin, I know, can at least get me decent to good every year. He's got some problems lately sort of getting past that. But I think of that group there, I would trust Mike Tomlin the most to run my franchise. And he's also, it's crazy how, like, not old he is. Mm-hmm. He's been around for so long, and you would think Mike Tomlin's, like, aging, but he's still relatively young in the coaching world. So I would go Mike Tomlin. That's a great question, though.
Yeah, because we're about to hit the year of 2026. I did put Pete Carroll 4th. I actually put John Harbaugh 3rd because he has the best quarterback of the bunch, and they still haven't taken that next step. I put Tomlin 2, and it was begrudgingly I put Sean Payton 1 just because that was a bottom 5 roster last year, and they went to the playoffs. And even though it's not looking that pretty in the offense side of the ball this year, that team is still 8-2. But I don't think you could really go wrong in trying to order 1, 2, and 3, Payton, Tomlin, and Harbaugh. All righty. Continuing to go around the NFL, your football team, the Carolina Panthers, are one of the great surprises of the NFL season, being at 5-4. How far are you willing to go with the Carolina Panthers this year, Bone?
First of all, we're handling this as expected. We're not getting above our heads here. We're not doing crazy dances and buying outfits. We're staying the course here in Charlotte.
For people that don't know, on their show, Mac and Bone, anytime the Carolina Panthers win a football game, they do a victory dance that Monday morning, and they have this producer, Fitty, who I could compare Fitty in size, even though the guy's looking slimmer these days, to Sean Marash, who used to work here on this network. And Marash would be someone that would put on a bra and dance, just like how Fitty is putting on a bra and dancing each and every time the Carolina Panthers win a football game.
Yeah, he's a unique hybrid of Marash and Bobby Hill from King of the Hill. That's the only way I can best describe. No, we're excited. Look, it's been, no joke, all jokes aside, it's been a rough decade since the Panthers went to the Super Bowl. It's not even the fact that they're not getting to the playoffs. I can't even describe to you how many non-competitive Sundays have been where they're getting crushed and it's 3:00. We couldn't even get on the Red Zone channel for a while. Like, Scott Hansen wouldn't even put us on there because they never got into the Red Zone. So the fact that we're now alive in the witching hour, it just we're excited of where they are. They're not like, these elite teams. We know that. But just the fact that they're a factor, they're over 500. The fan base just wanted the Panthers to be in the hunt graphic, just to be a factor, and the schedule gets tougher. But if you would have told us the Panthers are 5-4 after the start with Jacksonville and Arizona, where they were pretty god-awful like they have been, I don't think anyone would have thought this team would be 5-4, shutting out the Falcons, beating the Cowboys, for whatever those teams are now. But at the time, those, it meant a lot. And then last week, going to Green Bay and really defensively confusing Jordan Love. They were the worst defense ever a year ago. That's not hyperbole. That's a fact. Numbers-wise, the worst ever. So the fact that they're even competing at this level now, it's a pretty great job, I think, by all involved.
Now, this morning we were having a great conversation. I've been doing a weekly hit for years on Mac and Bone and WFNZ in football season, on Fridays in football season. And we were talking about how when you look at the Panthers, right now the story is the run game with Rico Dowdle. You also have a good offensive line now. The defense has been turning it around. And then we were getting into a conversation about Bryce Young, and Bryce Young made some plays on that final drive up against the Green Bay Packers, but I don't think Bryce Young is a franchise quarterback. We were about to have a conversation about that, and then anytime I say anything that is somewhat critical of the Carolina Panthers, your old curmudgeon of a co-host in Mac just cut me off and hung up on me as I am doing you guys a favor coming on the show. So I didn't appreciate that lack of respect today by Mac, even though I do love Mac. But what were your thoughts about to be on that conversation when it comes to Bryce Young? Because I felt like you were about to say something, we were about to engage, and then my phone call was dropped.
Yeah, we were doing radio, and my guy he got salty. I'm sorry about that, but I don't speak for him. I would talk to you all day over him if I could. Trust me. No, I agree with you. I think that you were so right when you said today there are two different conversations to have with Bryce Young. I said this yesterday on our show. There's the immediate, hey, they're winning with Bryce, not because of Bryce. Like, that's fine. He's managing the game. The stats aren't great. You take that because we're salivating so much for wins. You're not worried about the stats. The turnovers are always an issue, but you're not worried about the lack of huge passing days. We know that there's not a ton of weapons per se, and there's a lot going on still. But when you're starting to talk about franchise quarterback and you start to talk about picking up the option down the line, and which they will, but the big deal that would come down the line for Bryce, that's not the same discussion as now. Because while I don't think the stats matter right now, we know when the agent is trying to get that money, that's when the stats are going to matter, when the Panthers are going to compare him to other people from his class, from sort of where he ranks. They're going to say, well, here's how low the numbers are. So I don't think they matter right now, the numbers for Bryce, as long as they're winning. But there's a long way to go until we deem him like the long-term big money guy, because ultimately it will come down to those numbers and what he gets. So you were so right, Zach. This is a split conversation of now being different than maybe what the future holds for Bryce Young.
And I wonder if they kind of do like a Baker or a Sam Darnold kind of contract after this offseason. Say, okay, we're going to continue this marriage, maybe go $100 million over 3 years. Like where, hey, $33 million for a quarterback isn't bad. Bryce may feel like he's worth more. I don't think he's played to that level yet. I wonder if maybe this offseason, because this is year number 3, and then you're going into year number 4. I wonder if they try to get something done this offseason. But if I was them, I'd be in no rush to do that. I would be in no rush if I'm the Panthers. I said, hey, Jaguars, they gave that contract to Trevor Lawrence way too soon. Dolphins gave it way too soon to Tua. So I think you just let it ride out into next year, and then you pick up the 5th-year option. You see how this thing works out.
Yeah, keep using your off-season money now in other areas, right? Yeah. That way, that's why Seattle was so good for so long with Russell Wilson on the rookie contract. They did a tremendous job in filling out their roster around him. Once they started to pay him, things started to go a little different. So I would hold off as long as I can to give him the op to pick that up and pay him, and all that goes into it. No, I think you're exactly right. It's funny you brought up Baker and Darnold because they were both here at the same time. So if you're Bryce, you're probably thinking, you know what? Why don't we go the Baker Darnold route? Let me go somewhere else, and I'll go be in the MVP consideration.
All righty, let's get to the music. We'll get to the picks right now. Bone with us for Mac and Bone and WFNZ. This is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
It's time for NFL picks on the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, Bone, what do we got cooking? What's your first pick?
I am going to, and this is a place you never really truly want to go, but I'm going to the AFC South. I know Jacksonville won last week. Houston lost. Jacksonville's got receiver issues. It's kind of a weird division at times. It's 1.5. Houston is plus 1.5 against Jacksonville. I'm taking the Texans to win outright in that game.
All righty, so first pick for Bone, Texans plus 1.5. My first game, and we could use the same games. If we happen to pick the same games, it's fine. I will take the Buffalo Bills. Last time the Bills and the Dolphins played, it was a close game, and it still ended up being a 10-point deficit. Miami stinks. They're 2-7. I think the Bills go down south, and even if James Cook is going to play or not, they roll the Miami Dolphins. They win this game by at least 9 points, so give me the Bills laying 8.5 points. Pick number 2 for you is?
We're going to go a place I don't normally go with the money stuff. I'm going to go Panthers minus 5.5 at home against the Saints. I know that there's a letdown possibility for the Panthers. I don't think it's going to happen with a rookie quarterback for the Saints. I don't see the path here for the Saints to beat the Panthers in Carolina. It's dangerous for me here to do that, but I'm going the Panthers covering the 5.5 against New Orleans.
Is that a homer pick?
Yeah.
Well, at least you're honest. All righty, I'm gonna once again go to a big spread. I look at the Lions. I know this was 8.5 yesterday. It's now down to 7.5 points. I did see Pat McAfee break the news that President Trump is going to be in the building for Lions and Commanders with Veterans Day. right around the corner. I don't think the president's going to see a great football game. Marcus Mariota is going to be starting for the Commanders. The Lions got too much talent, and Detroit is at 5-3 right now, and they've lost 2 out of their last 3. I think that this is made for the Commanders to continue to go down the road that they are, which is not a good one. And then you do have the Detroit Lions going back to the team that we think they can be, and they have a decisive win. So give me the Lions laying 7.5 points for my second pick. Your third and final pick, Bone?
Yeah, excellent pick, too, because the Lions are ticked off how their season ended last year to the Commanders. I like that
point,
pick
too.
a lot.
I didn't even think about that because the Commanders have been that bad, but it's an excellent point.
They could try to embarrass them a little bit in that game on the road. My next one, I think it's going to be a close game. It's a dangerous thing to bet on. I'm taking Tampa Bay minus 2.5 against the Patriots. I think it's like a 38-31, 34-30. It's going to get near that spread, but I think Baker Mayfield pulls it off. Patriots are a great story, but I think they might kind of be due for a loss here at some point. Game of the day, I think, but Tampa Bay wins a thriller over the Patriots.
Yeah, and I did see that Bucky Irving is going to be out. I did see Chris Godwin is going to be out. Hassan Reddick is going to be out for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but it's not as if the Patriots are that healthy either, as Ramondre Stevenson has been ruled out for the second week in a row for the Pats. So we should see that show between Drake Maye and Baker Mayfield. My final pick, I'm going to Monday Night Football. And the Eagles, they know that the tush push is about to be banned, but the Packers have been the biggest advocate to ban the tush push. I think you're going to see a lot of tush push. I think the Packers, they're 5-2-1. They don't really fear me. I have not liked the way that they've played football ever since they started out the year being 2-0. We just saw what happened last week with the Panthers walking in there and beating them. I just think the Eagles have too much talent. The Eagles are a dog in this spot. So give me the Eagles plus the 1.5 points. I do think they win the game outright. But for the picks this week, Bones going Texans plus 1.5, Panthers minus 5.5, Bucks laying 2.5, and I will take the Bills laying 8.5, the Lions laying 7.5, and the Eagles plus 1.5 points. Bone for Mac and Bone on WFNZ. Bone, thank you so much, my friend.
All right, man. Thank you for not hanging up on me. Also, that's good. That's good radio respect. I appreciate it.
I'm a courteous talk show host. I would hang up on you, but you've done nothing to offend me, and I'm not sensitive like your co-host. All right.
I did steal your tweet, and I did. Yeah, that happened.
It's true. Right, I expect to give you a few mulligans. We serve breakfast balls all day when the two of us hook up in golf or do radio segments. There he is, Bone from Mac and Bone on WFNZ. Appreciate him coming on. All right, we got to take a break here on the show. When we do return, it is a Friday. Each and every Monday and Friday on the show, Stu or Samter will ask me some questions. I will give you some answers. We call that segment Onside, Offside, and we'll get back to it when we return in 5 minutes. You could always follow us on social media, by the way, Twitter and Instagram at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. If you don't do so, make sure you do so. And then on TikTok at The Zach Gelb Show. Coming on back, Onside, Offside next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Alrighty, hour number 3 of our radio program. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. I got an article sent to me during the break, and I'm just reading it. NittanyCentral.com. It says here, Nittany Central, this is about my Urban Meyer report, that he was interested in the Penn State job, and because of NIL and his conversations with the powers that be at Penn State, that's why he's not going to get the job, because his NIL answers weren't sufficient enough. So this article that I get, Nittany Central spoke to Gelb via text within an hour of his report and he replied that he could not get into any details of the alleged NIL breakdown so as to protect his sources. I don't think of myself. I go, I didn't talk to anyone at NittanyCentral.com. So someone texted me about that. I didn't know he was still writing. My former co-host on 97.5 The Fanatic, where I used to do post-game shows with, is Joe Stazak. He texted me about this. And he asked me something along the lines about NIL, and I just said, I can't get into this. Like, I'm not going to give you what I know and how I know it. So that ends up making its way on NittanyCentral.com. I also saw that Zach Smith, the former assistant coach at Ohio State, he was commenting on my Urban Meyer report. And it's funny, I saw some of it, and him and his co-host, I'm not being this to be a jerk, I just don't know who the co-host was. But when I was watching the clip right before I came back from break, his co-host and Zach, they were like talking a big game, like, what do they call me, like Gelby, the Gelby show or something. Like, I don't care, that doesn't bother me. But anyway, they were discrediting the part that Penn State rejected him. But they said, oh, Urban's definitely interested. And a lot of people like put words in my mouth. The only thing about my report was this. This is the only part of my report. Urban tried to spin it. Other people tried to spin it. The only thing I said was he had strong interest in the job, which he did. And the reason why the talks broke down was because of NIL. So I saw the Zach Smith podcast, and they're like, oh, well, Penn State didn't reject him. Well, if you said he was interested in it, then why didn't he get the job? Because the talks broke down over NIL. And there was some other show. I really got to stop watching all these. You know, my friends, they keep on sending me this crap. There was another show in Columbus that was like, oh, yeah, he talks everything sports. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Like, not for nothing, folks. I know I may not be the most well-known national talk show host. I don't want to sound like Kurt Signetti here for a second. Do a little Googling, though. Look how many exclusive stories we've had. Look how many big names we've had on this show. Look how many headlines we've made. You know, it's funny. When I had a report about Aaron Rodgers, where towards his end in Green Bay, when he was with the Packers, and how he would blow off meetings with Matt LaFleur, because Matt LaFleur was trying to give an input, and there would be like a week or two Rodgers show up, and then the third or fourth week, he wouldn't, and he would just leave LaFleur sitting there hanging. Funny how Aaron never disputed that report. And Aaron has a big ego, just like as Urban Meyer has a big ego, because Aaron knew it was right. Urban knows this is right. I got a lot out there on this. I have a lot that I could share on this, but I'm going to protect my sources, and I'm not going to do so. But when you look at Urban Meyer, he was interested in the Penn State job. That's a fact. And I understand why he's going to deny it. That's what I also said the whole time. He should be interested in the job. If he wants to coach again, Penn State would be a good job for him, and I think Penn State would be smart to hire him. But Penn State, with the talks that he had with the powers that be at Penn State, right, the athletic director and the president, the talks ultimately didn't go that far because of his answers on NIL. But the reason why Urban doesn't want this out there is because it's embarrassing that one of the great coaches of all time, in a job that he expressed interest in, got rejected. Like, I don't understand what's so hard for people to understand. And I get it, your feelings get in the way because, all right, if you're a Ohio State fan, he's your legendary coach, and now you're going to sit there and you're going to defend him to the fullest. But, folks, like, what do you want me to do? I got news. It's from two different sides, and I shouldn't report this. And I'll just say this, and I don't want to get into too much details about my sources because a lot of people assume who my sources are, and no one has got this right. No one, and I've seen a lot of the speculation. My message to Urban Meyer would be, maybe it's one of my sources could be people that you talk to. That's all I'm going to say. So I expected him to deny it. I'm not shocked by the denial. I saw he went on Colin Cowherd again today and denied it. Urban's going to keep on talking about this because he's going to want us to all believe that this isn't true. And if you're an Ohio State fan, you're going to believe it because that guy won you championships. But I do believe that in a lot of people's analysis, a lot of people are saying, oh, well, he was interested in that's what I keep on saying. He was definitely interested in the job. But then people are challenging the NIL part of it. Okay, then why didn't he get the job? Why didn't he get the job? Why, if he was interested and he's the great Urban Meyer, which he is, why didn't he get the job? It's because of NIL. And this is not me sitting here saying, and people put these words in my mouth too, that Urban couldn't coach in the NIL era. I never said that. I'm just telling you the information that I got from two sources, from two separate paths that both had the same damn thing. All right? So that's the bottom line on that. And I think after today, it will be the last day we actually talk about this. Because, right, we had the report last week. Urban responds. I fire back. Notice how Urban saw all this. And even Zach Smith, I'll give him credit. He was like, yeah, I love how Urban pretended to didn't know Zach's name when he knew everything about the report. And that's what Zach said. Zach Smith. And Urban pretended not to know it. I do find it interesting that Urban hasn't responded to the lie detector test. And I know some people are like, oh, well, how reliable is a lie detector test? It was a little bit tongue-in-cheek, you dopes. Like, come on. This guy's been referred to before as Urban Liar. Like, it's tongue-in-cheek. Have a little sense of humor. But I think it'd be fun to have a charity event like that. I think it would be fun. I think it'd be really fun to have a charity event like that. And all I'd have to ask Urban is, were you interested in the Penn State job? That's it. But funny how no one has asked Urban. We've already got, like, Colin Cowherd have him on today. And Colin's a legend. And I get it. Colin has his own audience, and I've been in those spots before where you have someone say something elsewhere, but you bring them on your show and you want the comment on your show. But I would like to hear the question asked. Well, the radio host, right? The lowly radio host, he issued a lie detector test challenge to you to deny your interest in the job. Would you be interested, Coach? Funny. Haven't heard any response for Urban on that one, but he's so quick to get to the report and shoot it down and then get the report wrong when he's talking about the senator, which I never talked about the senator. Funny. Really funny if you ask me. But that's pretty much that on that front. There's nothing more really to add on it. I've had fun with all this stuff in the last 48 to 72 hours. But it's amazing how people are spinning my report or they're saying different things. The only thing I ever said was that Urban Meyer was interested in the Penn State job. And when he had conversations with the powers that be at Penn State, the reason those talks broke down was because of NIL. So if you want to sit there and say, oh, Urban was interested, but they didn't reject it, well, then why didn't he get the job? Or if you're going to say, oh, he was never interested because it would be beneath him to take the Penn State, why? Like, Bill Belichick's coaching at freaking UNC. You tell me it's beneath Urban Meyer to take Penn State? Like, what are we doing here? But I can't control what other people say. All righty, let's get to a little onside offside. This is the Zach Gelb Show right here on the Infinity Sports Network. Azaram, take it away.
Zach's taking on the most polarizing issues in sports. Which side of the line of scrimmage will he end up on?
Offside. Defense number 69.
It's Onsides, Offsides with Zach Gelb.
All righty, Stewie, what do we got?
All right, as we discussed at the top of the show, Thursday Night Football between the Raiders and Broncos. It wasn't the most entertaining or clean games that NFL fans have seen. Denver won 10-7, but Bo Nix and company struggled throughout the game offensively. Nix completed just 16 of 28 passes, had just 150 yards, one touchdown pass, but 2 interceptions. Onsides, offsides, Bo Nix will ultimately end up as a top 7 quarterback in the NFL.
So let's do this in the next 5 years, right? Yep. I think Drake Maye is better. Josh Allen's still going to be playing. He's better. You can forget the Dolphins and the Jets. The Steelers don't have a long-term option at quarterback right now. I think Lamar's still playing for 5 more years, so Lamar would be better. Joe Burrow, even though he's been a walking injury, if he's still playing, he would be better. But you know what? Let me take Lamar and Joe out of it just because of the injuries, maybe. And they're a little bit more established. Let's go a little bit more in the younger route. AFC South, I think C.J. Stroud's a conversation, but I think it's up for grabs. Herbert's better. Mahomes is better. That's just in the AFC. And that's me taking Lamar and Joe with injuries and then just shelving them where I could still put them in there. Jalen Hurts is better. Do you think Dak has 5 more years, right?
I think he's kind of in that question mark list. A lot of injuries,
close.
too.
He's 32, though.
Yeah.
He could probably play 5 more years. I would say Dak's better, but fine. You want to keep him off the list? That's fine. 4. Jaden Daniels is better. That's 5, even though with the injury this year. I would say Jordan Love is better than Bo Nix. All right, Goff a little bit up there in age. Let's leave him off. Baker Mayfield, I think, is better than Bo Nix. What about McCarthy? Not yet. Caleb Williams, I think, will be better than Bo Nix. You can forget about Bryce Young. I'm already at 7. I know that. You can forget about Michael Penix Jr. I would add to take Sam Darnold for the next 5 years over Bo Nix. Sam Darnold's playing some good football. Stafford too old. Purdy too injured right now. So, yeah, Bo Nix will ultimately end up as a top 7 quarterback in the NFL. And that's me being critical in terms of keeping a lot of guys off the list that shouldn't be kept off the list. That's an offside to me. I don't think he's a top 7 quarterback.
Offside.
On the other end of things were the Raiders, who continued their struggles, falling to now 2-7 on the season. Geno Smith followed up his 4-touchdown performance against the Jaguars last week, which is 143 yards, no touchdowns, and an interception. He was also sacked 6 times and was forced out of the game for a drive with a leg injury, which he did not, but he did return from later in the game. Onsides, offsides, the Raiders should bench Geno Smith and start Kenny Pickett going forward.
I can't believe I'm going to say this. And an explosion may be coming out of one Chris in California's body. I think they should start Kenny Pickett. I've seen enough out of Geno Smith. I know he's on a 2-year contract, but he's banged up right now. They're 2-7. I don't think Kenny Pickett is really any good, but he is a youngster. So maybe you just go to the younger hand right now. You got to try to change something up. So the Raiders should bench Geno Smith and start Kenny Pickett going forward. Begrudgingly, I'm going to go onside. So where do you stand on that one, Stu?
I think at this point you don't have much to lose. So is Geno Smith even going to be there next year? If that's if you don't think Geno Smith's going to be there next year, you might as well at this point, I guess, see what you have in Pickett. And maybe even O'Connell comes back into the fold too when he's kind of back healthy, so he could also get back into the fold at some point before the end of the season, maybe.
That contract, oh my God. It was 2 years, $75 million.
I think next year's like 26 or something like that is the cap hit.
Now the dead cap this year, it's 58.51. Next year, it's only 18.5. So manageable if you want to move off him, or you just tell him, hey, you're the backup, you're QB2, we're going to find somebody else. Alrighty, next one.
All right, Antonio Brown is in the news once again as he was arrested yesterday on an attempted murder charge stemming from a mace shooting at a celebrity boxing event in Miami. The 7-time Pro Bowler and 4-time first-team All-Pro had a career with over 12,000 yards and 83 touchdown receptions, but played his final game in 2020 at the age of 32. Onsides, offsides, Antonio Brown will be remembered more for his off-the-field issues rather than his greatness on the field.
Antonio Brown was a sick wide receiver on the field. If you just take on the field and you don't get into any of the off-the-field stuff, which there's a lot, and some serious stuff, clearly, he's a Hall of Famer. He will not get into the Hall of Fame, though, because of the off-the-field stuff. And especially, this may not even be a conversation ever again if what he's accused of is true. But Antonio Brown will be remembered more for his off-the-field issues rather than his on-the-field greatness. Absolutely. 1,000%. Right? With how many things have gone on, it's actually impossible to keep up with all them. But then also, wouldn't off-the-field be considered, I know it pales in comparison to this in terms of the seriousness, him running off the field and taking his shirt off during the game and peacing out. And also, remember what was the stuff at the feet? The cryotherapy where he froze
the chamber,
his feet?
Yeah, with the Raiders.
Oh, my God. And he almost got into a fight with Mike Mayock.
He did, yep.
Yeah, this guy, he's a jackass, all right? That's me saying it nicely. But Antonio Brown will be remembered more for his off-the-field issues rather than his greatness on the field. Absolutely. Onsides.
After losing to the Ravens last...
And this probably isn't right to say, and it doesn't excuse the things that happened off the field. Whenever the day comes where Antonio Brown is no longer alive because you can't diagnose till afterwards, I would be shocked if he doesn't have CT. Shocked. Absolutely shocked. All right, next one.
After losing to the Ravens last week, the Dolphins are copycatting what Baltimore did a few weeks ago to try to turn things around on their end. According to the Palm Beach Post, games have been removed from the Dolphins' locker room, including a Pop-A-Shot game, another basketball hoop.
These the Ravens or the Dolphins?
I know. They're copying them. And now it's a card table as well. Onside, offsides, you're okay with the Dolphins taking games out of the locker room?
Does it really matter when the court jester is your head football coach? I'm being serious. Like, the Ravens do this, the Dolphins, like, who gives a rat's ass? So you're okay with the Dolphins taking games out of the locker room? Yeah, I'm okay with it. Do I think it's going to make them less of a joke? No. But I guess I'll go on sides on that one. It's not a good look when you're losing that many games to have, what'd you say, Pop-A-Shot?
Pop-A-Shot, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's fun.
How could those players survive without Pop-A-Shot? Let me tell you. Oh, God. All right, next one.
Speaking of the Ravens, they now have Lamar Jackson back in the mix and are up to 3-5 after their 2-game winning streak. They take on the 4-4 Vikings on Sunday, who also have their starting quarterback back in J.J. McCarthy, who looked quite good in Sunday's win over the Lions. Onsides, offsides, the winner of Ravens versus Vikings will make the playoffs.
I can't go that far. The NFC is loaded, and even if the Ravens win this one, we saw last week, right? People start to feel good about the Ravens, and the Steelers get a victory, and they keep their distance, and it's going to be tough for the Ravens to get in the postseason as a wild card. Just how far back they are, they're going to have to win that division. So I still don't think it's safe. Even if, the Ravens win, the Vikings win, I don't think it's safe to say that one of those teams, whoever does win, will make the playoffs. So I'm going offsides on that one.
Offside.
South Carolina's Lenore Sellers is just one of several college quarterbacks that had high NFL draft projections headed into the season. However, it's been a bit of a disaster for Sellers, who has just 7 passing touchdowns to 5 interceptions for a South Carolina team who is 1-6 in SEC play. Well, the Ringer's Todd McShay made this claim on the McShay Show about the quarterback.
Lenore Sellers, there's a strong opinion in NFL scouting circles. He will be back in school next year. That he absolutely needs to, for his development, be ready when he's called upon as a first-round draft pick. And all first-round quarterbacks, whether they plan on it or not, start in year 1. So everyone is supporting the concept of he needs another year of college. And there are people in his camp who are in agreement, is what I'm told. But I also, this is just scouts talking, there's some programs out there lurking. There is a place in South Florida where they've done a really nice job of handpicking quarterbacks the last 2 years. And they've seen ascensions in their game. And they have a lot of talent around that quarterback position. And they haven't been able to take that next step. Miami is a program I would be very cautious of if I'm Shane Beamer in the Gamecocks program.
Onsides, offsides, Lenore Sellers will still be a first-round pick whenever he enters the NFL draft.
The transferring part and him going back is interesting. He was on with us before the start of the season. And his dad even openly talked about the big offers that they were getting. Now, he elected to stay. If he is going to go back to college, I could see him leaving and taking those offers now. If he goes somewhere else and plays well, could he play himself into a first-round pick? Absolutely. Is that dual threat ability where he does scream to me like he has first-round potential? But something in the back of my mind just says second-round pick for Lenore Sellers. So Lenore Sellers will still be a first-round pick wherever he enters the draft or whenever he enters the draft. I'm going to go offsides. People keep on saying he's a 1, and usually when people say you're a 1, you end up going 1. Something just says to me he should be a 2, so I'll stick with my guns there, offsides.
Offsides. When the college football playoff rankings came out on Tuesday, only one ACC team landed in the field of 12 teams, that being Virginia. Behind them are Louisville and Georgia Tech, each with 1 loss, and Miami with 2 losses. Joel Klatt reacted to this following the rankings on the Joel Klatt Show.
I think the committee hates the ACC. They're not getting 2 bids. These teams are not getting propped up over the teams ahead of them.
Onsides, offsides, the playoff committee is unfair with how they view the ACC.
I don't think so. This is what it's just going to be as long as it stays in this format at 12. 1 year, the Big 12 is going to get preferential treatment over the ACC. That's how it's going to go. Last year was the ACC. They got 2 teams in. I know that because SMU had 1 loss going into the conference championship game, and then they lost to Clemson by a razor-thin margin of 3 points. So that's why they got 2 schools in. But this year, I think the Big 12 is better than the ACC. I don't think that is unfair. How they view the ACC this year, they should only get 1 bid this year. So the playoff committee is unfair with how they view the ACC. I'm going to go offsides.
Offside.
All right, last one. Despite a 10-point loss to Indiana a few weeks back, Oregon is safely in the college football playoff field for now with a ranking of 9 and a record of 7-1. Now, despite that, Kirk Herbstreit, when speaking to ESPN, said, quote, "I don't know how good Oregon is. I think we've been trained to think Oregon is good. They've had a great history, some great teams. You don't go there and win." And we're going to find out Saturday, by the way. They go to Iowa City, and they could lose there very easily if they don't find their offense, especially on the road. End of quote. Onsides, offsides, of all of the non-G5 currently in the college football playoffs, Oregon, they are the most vulnerable team.
Good question. By the way, I feel like the way that everyone's trying to talk Oregon into losing this weekend makes me even more inclined to lay the 6.5 points with them. So you look at it, non-G5, so take Memphis out of it. So you got Oregon, Texas Tech, Memphis in the G5, Georgia, Notre Dame, BYU, Virginia, Ole Miss, Indiana, A&M, Ohio State, and Alabama. I still think Oregon has to prove something. Notre Dame loses another game, though, they're out. Oregon loses another game, they'll still probably get in as a 2-loss team in the Big Ten. BYU, Texas Tech, this feels like it's an elimination game this week, so that makes them more vulnerable. And also, Virginia, they lose 1 game, someone else could surpass them in the ACC. So I think it's fair to question Oregon, but I think there are teams that are more vulnerable than Oregon that were in the first iteration of the 12-team bracket for the year of 2025. So I'm going to say, out of all the non-G5 currently in the college football playoffs, that Oregon is the most vulnerable. I'm going to say that is offsides.
Offsides.
All righty, Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network. We'll take a break. When we come on back, by the way, we'll get to some NFL talk. But Mac Jones in this week over Brock Purdy. Brian Thomas Jr. of the Jaguars is going to be out with an injury. We'll get to more NFL talk when we return after these short messages.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
This MLS game preview is sponsored by Lowe's. Lowe's knows that saving is always top of mind, especially this season. Shop early, Black Friday deals like select pre-lit artificial Christmas trees starting at $59.98 because it's basically Christmas, right? Lowe's. We help you save while supplies last. Selection varies by location. MLS Cup playoffs continue on Saturday as Lionel Messi and his Inter Miami squad host Nashville SC in the winner-take-all third leg of the round of 16. Miami won the first matchup 3-1, and Nashville won the second matchup 2-1. Messi has scored 3 of Miami's 4 goals this postseason. 2 questions off this, and I got to ask Stu. Number 1, when does the Christmas tree go up for you in your house?
That is usually a post-Thanksgiving, like a Black Friday or the weekend after Thanksgiving thing that we do.
My man. Also, number 2, when do you start to acknowledge that it's beginning to feel a lot like Christmas?
I think it's the same answer. I think it's right after Thanksgiving, that late November, early December.
That's what I'm talking about, Stu.
All right.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. My girlfriend the other day, she goes, "Oh, it's Christmas time." I go, pause. I go, you can't just look over the best holiday that there is, Thanksgiving. Like, Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday. And you know what? I forgot to do this. It's November 7th, folks. This is a safe space. Safe space, right? Safe space, Stu?
Safe space.
Azaram, safe space, correctamundo?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Do you like turkey on Thanksgiving?
I do.
Do you actually?
If it has gravy.
Okay, but it's not something that you're craving.
My number one, my go-to is mac and cheese.
Right? But the turkey is not the main thing that you look forward to. Stu, turkey, is it the main thing you look forward to?
No, I it's probably the stuffing, honestly. The stuffing
there we go,
is my favorite.
Folks. turkey sucks on Thanksgiving. And I'm so happy that little rascal Santa is in here today because he'd be sitting there saying, oh, I'm a sheep. Oh, I got to have turkey on Thanksgiving. I love turkey. Blah, 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 blah. Gobble, 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 gobble. Right? That's Santa. Every time I hear Santa speak, that's what goes off in my mind. Gobble, 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 gobble. Turkey is overrated. Turkey blows. Turkey sucks. That's why in the Gelb household, the Gelb family, we do lasagna. I am the voice for the voiceless this time of the year. Don't just fall in line with the normal tradition, the Sean Marashes of the world that portly walk around all over the studio. Oh, I'm so happy for my Thanksgiving. Oh, I can have turkey and lasagna, Zach Gelb. No. The turkey is a waste of time. Now, you fry the turkey, all right, like down south, my guy Bobby Hebert, who once talked about me, and we did the whole Thanksgiving thing, the former quarterback, and he goes, oh, you got to deep fry the turkey? Okay, I can live with that. Right? I can live with that. But a regular turkey, no bueno. You'd rather have the lasagna or something else. And I'm telling you, every year, I post my lasagna, and people, they slide into my DMs because they're afraid about getting shamed publicly. And they slide into my DMs, and they start to go, man, I wish I was at your Thanksgiving. Thank you for keeping up the good fight. I don't like turkey. I think turkey is trash. And more people, I keep on hearing, more and more, they go, Zach Gelb, you're right. 100% right. Now, I was at a party last week, and this topic of conversation came up, and almost every person in the room, like 75% in the room, they said, hey, let's be real. Turkey's overrated on Thanksgiving. Lasagna, that's where it's at. Now, if you want to do a steak, if you want to do mac and cheese, well, like the actual, I think you need like a meat, though, in addition to that. Like just mac and cheese, probably enough. Like at least there's sausage, there's pepperoni on my lasagna. That's what we do. But, folks, lasagna or anything that is not turkey is where it's at for Thanksgiving. That's my spiel that I give each and every year. You'll probably hear it more until Thanksgiving. But when I was talking to my girlfriend, Stu, she just wanted to gloss right over Thanksgiving. I'm like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, we noticed on Saturday, so I guess that was the 1st of November, we noticed an apartment across the street from us, Christmas tree already up.
That's early.
November 1st.
Isn't that early?
So early.
Like I walked into Starbucks the other day. They already start to have the Christmas-themed stuff. I go, a little bit early.
Yeah. It's a little early.
December 1st is when it starts.
Okay, that's fine. I think Black Friday. That was my thing.
Yeah.
I go, just Black Friday. Boom. You're in Christmas mode. You're in Hanukkah mode. You're in whatever you celebrate mode. But until then, we have to acknowledge Thanksgiving. Not acknowledging Thanksgiving is a disaster.
I actually prefer Thanksgiving over Christmas. I don't know if that's a hot take, but that's just me.
Well, you're talking to a Jewish guy. No, but I have celebrated Christmas before. I have some family that is not fully Jewish, and I've dressed up as Santa Claus before and walked in for my little cousins and dressed up as Santa. I love Christmas. Absolutely love Christmas. And also, you know who I saw actually 2 weeks ago? I saw Gigi, D-Ben's wife, at a giant Eagles game, whatever that was, a few weeks ago for Amazon Prime. And I talked about her pinoli cookies. Those pinoli cookies are legendary. And Mama Gallo, by the way, she better be cooking us some cookies this year. That Mama Gallo. Where the heck is Zach, by the way? Is he not here?
He was just in here like a minute ago. I can go go get him.
Go fetch him. I'm ready to take a break here. It's 35 past the hour. We're very strict here on the clock. When we come on back, we will get to some NFL stuff. We'll look at the Pats and the Bucks, the Ravens and the Vikings, the Rams and the 49ers, the Steelers and the Chargers, plus some happenings in college football. But here's what's happening first with the Ackman, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
And it's sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Progressive is proud to support veterans and small businesses with its annual Keys to Progress vehicle giveaway program, helping our heroes drive their lives forward. Learn more at keystoprogress.com. The Commanders got a dose of good news when tests on Jaden Daniels revealed no ligament damage in his dislocated left elbow. Not known when he can return, but he'll be reevaluated during the team's bye week. Mac Jones gets another start for the 49ers against the Rams. Once again, Brock Purdy could see action. And 9 games into his first season in Las Vegas, Pete Carroll is looking for a new special teams coordinator after firing Tom McMahon. Chris Godwin and Bucky Irving remain out for the Buccaneers, while the Patriots will once again be without Ramondre Stevenson this Sunday against Tampa. Brian Thomas Jr. is out for the Jaguars due to a foot injury. The Celtics are used to deep playoff runs in recent years, but this year might be different without star Jason Tatum. They're off to a respectable start thus far and look to split their first 10 games. They'll tip off the schedule tonight in Orlando, looking to get back to the 500 mark, while the Thunder are coming off their first loss of the young season and will try to recover in Sacramento. Number check.
This is Maggie Gray for the Maggie and Perloff Show. Get all your sports talk here on the Infinity Sports Network. Always available on the free Odyssey app.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick from the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Oh my God, we're back again.
All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show right here on the Infinity Sports Network. Hey, Stu, you're gonna have to help me out here for a second. I'm gonna need you to read me the Ask the Pros question of the day. For some reason, where this gets sent to me, it is not popping up.
Not working again.
So it's time to answer our Ask the Pros question of the day. It's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Stu, what is that question?
All right, Peter from Colorado asks, of all the NFL games this weekend, which one are you looking forward to the most?
Okay, I will get to that question in just a second. But first, you can submit a question by tweeting at INF Sportsnet or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag AskThePros. You can think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. I'm going to go in answering this question. I'm going to say it's the Patriots and the Bucks. I know people are going to say, oh, it's because you're a Patriot fan. The Patriots are 7-2. Outside of Buffalo, they don't have a great win. Now, you can only play this on your schedule, but they beat the Dolphins, they beat the Panthers, they beat the Saints, they beat the Titans, they beat the Browns, and they beat the Falcons. The Buccaneers, if the Patriots could beat them, and the Pats are sitting there 8-2, man, you look at their schedule the rest of the way. I'm going to the game on Thursday next week, where they play the Jets in Foxborough. I'll be there. A Thursday night football. I'm telling you, I don't think I'll fall asleep in the stadium, but if that's give me a blowout. If that ends up being a close game because it's Thursday and no one really gives a rat's ass about Thursday's game, I'm going to be really annoyed. At the Bengals, then they play the Giants, the Bills again, the Ravens, the Jets, if they win this week and go 8-2, I don't think it's crazy to say they beat the Jets, they beat the Bengals, they're 10-2. Then they beat the Giants, they're 11-2. All right, they lose to the Bills, so 11-3. Even lose to the Ravens, 11-4. Then they beat the Jets and the Dolphins. You could have a 13-win Patriot team. So I'm just curious this week, because there's not that many opportunities to go up against good competition, what the Patriots can do. And then also on the other side for Tampa Bay, they lose this game, they're 6-3. The Panthers just picked up their 5th win. I'd just be curious to see how that's going to play out. And this is a stretch for Tampa Bay, who they do have some injuries. No Hassan Reddick this week, no Chris Godwin, and no Bucky Irving. I love Bucky Irving, by the way. Bucky. But the Buccaneers, their next 3 games, Patriots, at the Bills, at the Rams. So that's the game I'm most looking forward to. But the rest of the week for the NFL, coming up on Sunday, Rams and 49ers, I think that this is a Rams revenge spot where they lost to the 49ers earlier in the season. Mac Jones going to play at quarterback once again. Rams and 49ers, Rams sitting there at 6-2. They're on a 3-game win streak. If the Rams don't win this one, it's going to get interesting. because they would then sit there at 6-3, and the next 2 games would be the Seahawks and the Buccaneers. So this, I think, is a bigger game for the Rams. And if you're the 49ers, it's like, how many times you keep on going back to the well with all these injuries and keep on winning? I know it's kind of evened out for them a little bit, because after starting the year off 3-0, it's been loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, with it being the Jaguars, the Rams, the Bucks, the Falcons, the Texans, and the Giants. But this is a game where if I'm a Rams fan, you better. You can't lose to this team twice in a season. But you just need to be the better team. Stafford, better than Jones. You got Puka Nacua. The defense for the Rams, which is exceptional. That's a game I think there's more pressure on the Rams than the 49ers. Ravens and Vikings is another one. The loser of this game, like, Stu, you asked me that earlier. If the winner of this game, do you feel good about them making the playoffs? I like, if you're the Ravens, you win this game and go to 4-5, it doesn't mean you're going to make the playoffs. If you're the Vikings and you go to 5-4, it doesn't mean you're going to make the playoffs. The loser of this game, though, it feels like it's an elimination game. Because even though, right, the Ravens could still go then win the AFC North, it's unlikely with where the Steelers are right now. And I understand that their schedule is rather easy over the next few weeks, because after this, the Ravens play the Browns, the Jets, the Bengals, the Steelers, and the Bengals. But we're now getting late into the year. But the loser of this game, it's going to be tough for them to be able to scratch and claw and find a way to dig themselves out of that hole. Because if the Ravens lose, they go to 3-6. And if the Vikings lose, they go to 4-5. And you play in an NFC where you got the Eagles. They're going to win their division. In the North, man, trying to pick who's going to be 1-4 in that division is impossible. The Vikings are a part of it. The Bucs should win the South, I would think. And then the NFC West is a gauntlet. Forget the Cardinals, but with the Rams, the Seahawks, and the 49ers, if the Vikings fall to 4-5, it's going to be tough for them to make the playoffs. And other games to look at this weekend that I'm really curious about, Sunday Night Football on NBC, yeah. Steelers and Chargers. See, Steelers and Chargers, that's one where I don't feel confident in either team. And if the Steelers lose, they'd be 5-4. If the Chargers lose, they'd be 6-4. But there's so many injuries on the Chargers front. You got both your tackles done for the year. You know, the Vidal, I think is how you say his name, how he's been playing at the running back position. He's actually been pretty damn good after you've had the 2 injuries at the running back spot for the Chargers, Najee Harris and Amarian Hampton. You know, his numbers so far since taking over, he had 124 yards up against the Dolphins, only 20 against the Colts, $117 against the Vikings, and last week only 30 against Tennessee. So it's been hot and cold. But 66 carries, 309 yards on the ground, that's 4.7 yards per carry. That's not the end of the world right there. But that's a game. Can I really feel all that confident in the Steelers or the Chargers? So the Steelers defense usually folds in these big spots. The Chargers, I'd run the ball a ton. Herbert's got to go make plays, though. And the Chargers, they have a good defense. I could see a few Aaron Rodgers interceptions in that one. I think that's one where Chargers laying 2.5. I think a lot of people are going to be on the Steelers. I actually like the Chargers in that one. So those are the games that really stand out to me for this weekend. Obviously, Monday you have the Eagles and the Packers. But I think those are 4 games that could go either way. And we're going to learn a lot about Pats Bucks, Ravens Vikings, Rams 49ers, and Steelers and Chargers. And you know what's another good game too? Kind of underrated because it's early, 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. I know the Falcons have lost 3 straight. But Falcons-Colts, it seems like there's going to be a ton of points in that one. All right, get into the college football real quickly. We'll breeze through this before we get on out of here. I'm curious what kind of showing Mississippi State has up against Georgia this week. Georgia's been vulnerable, but they keep on winning. I like Georgia. The spread in that game is Georgia laying 9.5. BYU, Texas Tech. This is the one where I will admit I will probably walk in on Sunday for Sunday morning football. And Texas Tech will probably make me look silly. In good conscience, though, I can't lay the 10.5 points with Texas Tech. And I know Vegas, when they usually beg you into these spots, I'm the big fat rat that takes the cheese and then, boom, the rat trap goes crushing down on my hand. But BYU is undefeated. They're 8-0. Texas Tech, phenomenal. Great. I was texting with Joey McGuire this morning. I like Joey McGuire. They're 8-1. how the heck isn't this a 10-point game or less? 10.5 points for Texas Tech. I think that is disrespectful to BYU, and it actually makes me want to see BYU win the game outright, but I will plus them on the 10.5 points. Texas A&M and Missouri. Everyone keeps on saying that Missouri is going to keep this close and A&M could go down. It definitely could be a possibility. I'm just not going to pick against A&M. I think A&M finds a way to pull it out. Oregon, Iowa. A lot of people like Iowa this week. I don't like Oregon laying 6.5. Auburn, Vanderbilt, I think is a sneaky good game. Just because, right, Auburn just got rid of Hugh Freeze. Durkin's the head coach. Vanderbilt, though, they can't afford to lose another game. And Vanderbilt, they're 7-2. They finish the season with 2 losses or fewer. They're going to be in the college football playoff. They have Auburn, Kentucky, and then at Tennessee. Vanderbilt better take care of business up against Auburn and Kentucky before they go to good old Rocky Top. Other games that could stand out this weekend, just because it's a game of interest and note with Virginia, probably only one ACC school getting in. They go up against 5-3 Wake Forest. Virginia is a 6.5-point favorite. You get LSU and Alabama on Saturday night. I will not pick against the Tide. And then you get Navy and Notre Dame. Notre Dame, they can't afford to lose another game this season. These next 2 weeks are huge. Navy and Pitt. And then if they get through that, as long as they don't have a letdown, you would think they get in because then they play Syracuse and Stanford. So these next 2 weeks, Stu, it really does feel like, I know each and every week for Notre Dame recently has been a playoff game, but you never were concerned about them losing to Purdue or Arkansas or Boise State, NC State. You know, okay, USC rivalry game, that could be one that they lost. Boston College, you never thought they were going to lose. I know it wasn't a clean product. The Love had that long touchdown run. But these next 2 games, Navy and Pitt, and I think Pitt is the sneaky one at Pitt, too, especially with that youngster who's playing that quarterback ever since they benched Eli Holstein. I think these next 2 weeks will define the Notre Dame season if they make the playoff or not.
Yeah, I think so. And I think Pitt, they're retiring Aaron Donald's number that game, so that'll be kind of a good atmosphere for them. I agree. I don't see Syracuse or even going to Stanford. They've lost games out there in the past, but I think Pittsburgh is the toughest one, and I think Navy is the second toughest one.
And then my NFL picks this week, just to give them to you on the spread, because I was just rolling through those. Those weren't like firm picks or anything. But my NFL picks, just to reiterate, if you missed them earlier an hour ago, I'm taking the Bills laying 8.5, Lions laying 7.5, and the Eagles plus 1.5. Alex Azarm, thank you so much. Stuart Kovacs, thank you so much. Richard Ackerman, thank you so much. That's another week of the Zach Gelb Show right here on the Infinity Sports Network. You listen to me on Sunday for Sunday Morning Football from 10 a.m. to noon Eastern Time. Many of these same stations, Sirius XM Channel 375, the free Odyssey app, the iHeartRadio app, and streaming live on YouTube. The first hour of that show, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, is all things college football. And then once the clock does hit 11 a.m. Eastern Time, we go all things NFL. We'd like to thank Pete Nakos for joining us today. We'd also like to thank Bone from the Mac and Bone Show on WFNZ down in Charlotte, North Carolina. But most importantly, a big thank you to each and every one of you. Twitter and Instagram, make sure you get at me. If you don't follow us right now at Zach Gelb, ZACHGELB. Go, 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 do. And also, you can follow me on TikTok at The Zach Gelb Show. Have a great weekend. I'll talk to you on Sunday. If not Sunday, then we talk to you right back here on Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific time. We out. Bye-bye. Have a great weekend. Peace.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining.